Where am I? Li Mu slowly opened his eyes, staring blankly at the surroundings. Scattered boulders, tangled thickets, a boundless stretch of ocean, and a tattered parachute sprawled on the ground. It dawned on Li Mu that he had stranded himself on a deserted island. A sharp, splitting pain suddenly pounded his skull, and torrents of foreign memories flooded into his mind. It took him quite a while to fully recover his senses. He had been binge-watching Bear Grylls' Man vs. Wild back at home, only to have his consciousness transmigrate into this world. The original host of this body shared the exact same name, Li Mu. This world was nearly identical to the blue planet he had come from. Piecing together the imported memories, he learned he was participating in a program, 365 Days of Wilderness Survival. This extreme survival challenge was co-launched by a group of wealthy investors and mainstream media platforms, with every moment broadcast live to a global audience. Massive monetary rewards awaited anyone who could endure the trial. 1 million Huaxia yuan for surviving 1 month on the island. 4 million Huaxia yuan for lasting 2 months. 8 million Huaxia yuan for surviving 3 months. Rewards grew exponentially the longer contestants stayed alive on the island. Anyone who conquered the full 1-year ordeal and safely endured 365 days would claim the grand prize, 100 million Huaxia yuan. Life on an uninhabited island was brutally harsh, yet the prospect of staggering wealth drew countless applicants. To most participants, this was a once-in-a-lifetime shot at striking it rich. Last a single month, and you instantly became a millionaire. Hold on longer, and financial freedom was guaranteed. The original Li Mu grew up in poverty, which pushed him to sign up for the competition. Over 1 million people submitted applications in total, but the island had limited space, so the organizers could not admit every applicant. After multiple rounds of strict screening, nearly 1,000 contestants were selected to take part. Li Mu had been lucky enough to secure a spot, yet his fortune soured the moment he jumped from the helicopter. His parachute malfunctioned mid-descent, and the original host plummeted from high altitude, losing his life on impact. Now fully aware of his predicament, Li Mu muttered to himself, "Since I'm stuck here, I have to fight to stay alive." He brushed dust off his clothes and stood to his feet. A drone hovered roughly a dozen meters away, capturing every single move he made for the live stream. While Li Mu watched the machine hovering in midair, thousands of viewers stared back at him through their screens. Bullet screen comments flooded in instantly. "Li Mu's alive. Thank goodness. I thought he was a goner for sure. This guy is unbelievably tough." His chute failed at 800 meters, and he landed completely unscathed without a single injury. How is that even possible? Is this some kind of traditional Chinese martial arts magic? A foreign viewer typed. We're never going to rationalize this one. Viewers were utterly stunned by Li Mu walking away unharmed from a fatal parachute failure. Meanwhile, Li Mu began scavenging for usable supplies. He had nothing but the clothes on his back right now, and tools were essential for long-term survival. Walking a short distance toward the broken parachute, he spotted a backpack half buried amid the wreckage. He hurried over and unzipped it to find a first aid kit, a satellite phone, and a military combat knife tucked inside. He quickly realized only the blade was usable for daily survival. The medical supplies and satellite phone were emergency lifelines only to be used during life or death crises. Activating either item would be treated as an official withdrawal from the challenge. Li Mu gripped the knife tightly and whispered, "You're all I've got to rely on for now." His mission was clear. Armed with nothing but a knife, survive an entire year on this remote island. He slung the backpack over his shoulders and folded up the torn parachute fabric, knowing it would serve multiple practical purposes out in the wild. After organizing his belongings, he gazed out toward the ocean and mapped out his next steps. How do I survive out here long term? Right then, a crisp electronic tone echoed inside his head. Ding. Wilderness check-in system initiating activation. System activation progress. 1, 2, 3. Activation complete. System successfully bound to host. A surge of joy washed over Li Mu. As a transmigrator, his long-awaited golden finger had finally awakened. He soon learned the mechanics of this ability. The system remained active as long as he stayed within wilderness terrain, and completing daily check-ins would grant him various rewards. Eager to test his new power, he immediately triggered his first check-in. Ding. Host check-in successful. First check-in reward received. Master Fire Starter. Master Fire Starter grants complete mastery over all fire starting techniques. Not bad at all, Li Mu thought with satisfaction. Fire was the most vital resource in the wilderness, needed for warmth, cooking meals, and sterilizing drinking water by boiling. In his past life, Li Mu had studied countless survival videos hosted by Bear Grylls and Ed Stafford, accumulating a wealth of theoretical knowledge for building fires. However, he had never put those skills into practice, leaving him uncertain if he could successfully ignite a flame out in the wild. With the Master Fire Starter buff, every method, preparation step, and operational detail for fire making was permanently etched into his muscle memory and mind. His earlier anxiety faded entirely, lifting his spirits significantly. Before he could fully process this boon, another system notification chimed. Ding! Host receives newcomer starter pack. Peak Special Forces Physical Fitness. Li Mu was still celebrating his fire-starting ability when this second premium reward arrived, proving invaluable for his current situation. Instantly, his body brimmed with explosive physical strength, and every step felt far lighter and more fluid. His physique had undergone a fundamental transformation. Superior physical fitness boosted immune function and overall bodily performance, drastically raising his odds of surviving harsh wilderness conditions. His original body had decent baseline health, yet it paled in comparison to the conditioned physique of an elite Special Forces soldier. This is a fantastic start, Li Mu murmured as he looked toward the sea. Filled with newfound confidence, he was certain he could weather the island's dangers and claim the ultimate cash prize. He drafted a simple survival priority plan immediately. 3 necessities governed all wilderness survival: clean water, food, and a secure shelter. He prioritized locating a water source first, for water was the foundation of all life. Scientific research confirmed a harsh truth. Humans could last roughly a week without solid food, yet death from dehydration would strike in merely 3 days. The blazing tropical sun already left his throat parched and dry, making fresh water an urgent necessity. He adjusted his path and began trekking along the coastline. From the original host's memories, this was a tropical island, home to coconuts, a perfect fruit for quenching thirst and beating extreme heat. Loaded with potassium, vitamin C, and protein, coconuts were a nutrient-dense natural resource. Li Mu followed the shore for around 15 minutes until he spotted a dense stand of coconut trees, filling him with relief. He singled out a relatively short palm tree, standing roughly 10 meters tall. Most coconut palms grew to over 20 meters in height. The tree was heavy with fruit, some husks brown and fully ripened, others pale green and unripe. Li Mu set his sights on the green coconuts. Though not fully mature, their juice tasted sweeter and worked better to relieve heat exhaustion compared to mature brown coconuts. He picked up a sharp rock from the sand and hurled it hard at one fruit. Crack! A sharp cracking sound echoed as the stone struck its target dead on. Thud! A large green coconut crashed onto the sand. Bolstered by Special Forces level strength and precision, Li Mu brought down the coconut with a single throw. The drone captured the entire sequence live, triggering another wave of shocked reactions in the livestream comments section. He took down a coconut just by tossing a rock? Striking coconuts down with thrown stones takes immense skill. So how did Li Mu pull it off so effortlessly? This guy is insane. Other contestants are struggling for ages, either throwing rocks or climbing trees with zero success. If they saw this clip, they'd be utterly discouraged. His throwing technique is textbook professional, perfect speed, pinpoint accuracy, brutal force. That's exactly why everyone else fails where he succeeds. While viewers reeled in shock, Li Mu got to work cracking open the coconut. Its tough outer husk posed a major barrier for ordinary people, yet it was no obstacle for him. He braced the coconut against a large hard boulder and slammed the fruit forcefully against the stone. The powerful impact split open the thick husk instantly. He pulled out his military knife to carve a clean opening in the shell, tilting the coconut to let clear, refreshing liquid flow out. Glug, glug. Li Mu drank deeply, the cool, sweet liquid soothing his burning throat and leaving him feeling revitalized. Now refreshed, he grabbed another stone and aimed at more coconuts hanging overhead. The stone sliced through the air with a sharp whistle before colliding with another fruit. Thud! A second green coconut dropped to the ground. One after another, every throw landed true, felling coconut after coconut. The audience watched in awe. No way. Every single throw hits its mark without missing once. It looks easy enough. I could probably do the same thing. Don't kid yourself. The average person could never replicate that level of precision. After several rounds of throwing, 6 coconuts lay at his feet, 3 young green ones and 3 fully ripe brown ones. He mapped out a simple usage plan. Green coconuts would supply fresh drinking juice for hydration, while mature brown coconuts had less flavorful liquid but thick, edible flesh inside. I'll roast the coconut meat for dinner tonight, Li Mu thought to himself. He picked up one ripe brown coconut and smashed it open against the rock. After draining its juice, he split the shell in two with his knife to reveal thick, white coconut flesh. He sliced the meat into small fragments and squeezed pure coconut oil out of the pulp. Using the oil, he coated all exposed skin on his face, neck, and arms. A viewer posted a confused comment. Why waste edible coconut meat like this? Someone quickly corrected them. Don't speak if you don't know what you're talking about. Coconut oil creates a natural barrier against harsh ultraviolet radiation. The sun is brutal on this island. This is a smart way to prevent painful sunburns. I looked it up afterward. Coconut oil works as a natural cleanser, sunscreen, and moisturizer. This guy definitely has an extensive knowledge of wilderness survival tactics. Once he finished treating his skin, Limu wrapped the remaining 5 coconuts in sections of the salvaged parachute fabric for easy carrying. His water needs were temporarily resolved, and roasted coconut flesh would tide him over for food for the time being. With 2 survival essentials covered, he set off to find a stable shelter, packing up his supplies and heading deeper into the island's interior. Shelter was every bit as critical as food and water in the wild. A proper shelter guaranteed restful sleep and offered protection against wild animal attacks. Yet naturally safe shelters were notoriously hard to locate. Crunching through tangled underbrush, Limu trekked deeper inland over rough terrain for more than 30 minutes with no suitable shelter in sight. Fortunately, his enhanced Special Forces physique, paired with the hydration from coconut juice, kept him energized and fatigue-free. A faint gurgling sound suddenly drifted to his ears, making Limu's spirits soar. He had found running water. He altered his course immediately, following the sound of flowing water as it grew louder with every step he took. 10 minutes later, the trees thinned to reveal a clear mountain stream glinting brightly under the sunlight. The crystal-clear water flowed steadily without any visible contamination. This was safe freshwater fit for drinking. To access the purest possible water, Limu followed the stream upstream. The water grew progressively cleaner as he moved toward its source, confirming his assumption. Scattered stones grew more frequent along the banks after another 30 minutes of hiking, and he spotted a natural cave roughly 10 meters from the stream's edge. The ground in front of the cave was flat and level compared to the uneven surrounding terrain, the perfect natural shelter. He glanced upward and noticed the sun dipping low toward the horizon. I'll camp here for the night, Limu resolved firmly. The land sloped upward further ahead, and the stream originated from mountain spring runoff. Water, food, shelter, the 3 core survival necessities were now secured. The live chat blew up with enthusiastic messages. Limu has the luck of a lifetime. He finds clean freshwater right when he needs it most, then stumbles on a usable cave immediately after. This man must be blessed with insane luck. Other contestants are having a terrible time in comparison. I tuned into another stream earlier. Some participants haven't found water or coconuts at all. With the sun this intense, dehydration could knock them out before the day even ends. Limu waded across the shallow stream to the opposite bank and walked toward the cave entrance. The cavern itself was modest in size, but more than spacious enough for one person to reside in temporarily. Sunlight filtered into the cave, illuminating a pile of animal bones and a rotting hide on the ground. Judging by the skeletal structure, the remains belonged to a wolf. I need to stay vigilant against wild animals roaming the island, Limu reminded himself. He set down all his belongings inside the cave, grabbed his combat knife, and headed toward the other side of the island to gather materials for building a fire before sunset. Thanks to his master fire starter skill, he possessed expert-level knowledge of friction fire construction and preparation. In the absence of modern ignition tools, drilling wood to create friction fire was his only viable method. He hiked roughly 10 minutes until he reached a thick grove of trees ideal for sourcing fire-starting materials. He soon found a dry log as thick as his calf with a smooth, dry surface, perfect to serve as the baseboard for hand drill firemaking. Next, he picked out a round, sturdy branch resistant to breaking to act as the spinning drill stick. Comments from viewers rolled in once more. Limu is acting with total professionalism. The base log and drill stick he selected are top-tier materials for friction fire. Exactly. Look at how carefully he's picking each piece of wood. I bet he's about to gather tinder next. Sure enough, he's already collecting dry tinder bundles right now. While viewers were embroiled in heated discussions in the live stream, Limu had already walked over to a pile of dry grass. He picked up the dry grass and began twisting and weaving it repeatedly. Bit by bit, a bird's nest-shaped tinder bundle took shape in his hands. Shaping tinder into a bird's nest makes it far easier to ignite glowing embers. Limu's techniques are truly brilliant. Viewers flooded the bullet screen with exclamations of admiration. Now he had finished preparing the fireboard, hard wooden spindle, and tinder. The only remaining task was gathering dry firewood. Li Mu kept busy for a while longer afterward. Using tree bark, he bundled together numerous twigs and nearly 10 thick logs, gripping the tinder bundle in one hand. All materials needed for hand drill fire starting were now ready. He then pulled out a small knife to cut vines deep within the jungle, braiding them into a conical fish trap. This fish trap Li Mu made is really well crafted. I never knew Li Mu was such a skilled craftsman. Naturally, no one can take on a wilderness survival challenge without picking up practical skills. Viewers showered praise over Li Mu's handmade trap. Though simple in construction, the fish trap was neatly formed and fully functional for catching fish. Roasted coconut flesh would tide him over for dinner tonight, yet no one would turn down a better meal. Li Mu set his sights on the fish swimming in the nearby stream. Loaded with his handmade gear, Li Mu headed back toward his cave shelter. Viewers watching the live feed marveled at his agile, steady strides. Carrying such heavy supplies, how does Li Mu move as if he bears no weight at all? Not to mention the rough, overgrown jungle terrain he's traversing. Just how exceptional is Li Mu's physical fitness? As the audience reeled from shock, Li Mu drew closer to his shelter. The load he carried was undeniably heavy. An average person would struggle immensely trekking through the jungle with these supplies slung over their shoulders. Blessed with the physical prowess of an elite special forces soldier, however, brisk travel under heavy loads posed no difficulty for him. Shortly afterward, Li Mu returned to the cave. He set down the lumber and tinder before grabbing his fish trap and heading toward the stream. Upon reaching the stream bank, Li Mu followed the watercourse downstream. He had noticed earlier that fish congregated in greater numbers further down the current. After walking for 20 minutes, he spotted a deep pool ahead and resolved to place his fish trap here. Li Mu's about to try fishing. Can he actually catch anything with just a homemade trap? Wait a minute, what is he holding in his hand? Spurred by this bullet screen comment, all viewers fixed their eyes on Li Mu's palm. He held chunks of cut coconut flesh. I get it now. He's using coconut meat as bait. Coconut flesh carries a faint milky sweetness, perfect for luring fish. I've learned something new today. Coconut meat works great as fishing bait. That explains why he split open the coconut back in the cave. The gaps in his woven trap are narrow enough to stop the coconut bait from washing away in the current. I've got a good feeling he'll come back with a solid catch. Couldn't agree more. The live chat erupted into another round of lively debate. Li Mu placed the coconut chunks inside the fish trap and secured the structure underwater. All he needed to do now was wait for fish to swim into the trap. Glancing up at the sky, he saw the sun sinking west. Dusk had fallen. With quick footsteps, he raced back toward the cave. He had to build his campfire before darkness fully enveloped the jungle. The rugged terrain barely slowed him down. Powered by top-tier Special Forces physical conditioning, he moved swiftly upstream and made it back to the cave in merely 10 minutes. He sipped cool coconut water to catch his breath for a short rest, then began the fire-starting process. He laid out every preparation step before attempting the hand drill method. First, he stacked thin twigs into a tripod frame with an opening left at the bottom. An opening slightly wider than his bird's nest tinder bundle. He used his knife to smooth the fireboard and carve a notch into its center. His technique looks incredibly professional, one viewer commented in the bullet screen. Professional technique means nothing if he can't get an actual flame in the end. That'll be pretty embarrassing. You must be new here. If you'd watched everything Li Mu's done so far, you wouldn't doubt him. Anyone can mimic these motions. I could do the same thing myself. Don't tell me people actually think hand drill fire starting is simple. It's notoriously difficult. I watched another popular wilderness survival contestant spend over 3 hours trying to start a fire, without producing even a wisp of smoke, let alone open flame. Call me biased, but I have full faith in Li Mu. As viewers argued fiercely across the bullet screen, Li Mu got to work spinning the wooden spindle. He had memorized every procedure thanks to his master-level fire-starting expertise. He positioned the hard spindle against the carved notch on the fireboard, pressing his palms to the wood and rotating it continuously. When his hands slid down to the spindle's midpoint, he moved them back to the top and repeated the steady motion. His rotation speed was moderate yet rhythmic, never pausing for a single second. Li Mu clearly understands the core principle of hand drill fire starting. Most people rush to spin the spindle at maximum speed right away, burning through their stamina quickly and stopping short of creating embers. Consistency matters far more than raw speed, a knowledgeable viewer explained in the chat. Are we really praising this mediocre pace? He's just not strong enough to spin it faster. Quit the negativity. You're going to end up eating your words soon enough. Look, it's working. Unbelievable. Li Mu is phenomenal. The live feed captured clear footage of Li Mu's fire starting process. Friction between spindle and fireboard shed fine wood shavings and curled, thin trails of smoke. Gradually, the shavings charred into glowing embers, dotted with tiny flickers of heat. Li Mu accelerated his spinning motion once smoke appeared, sending more hot embers falling into the carved notch. Staring at the pile of charred embers, he knew the critical moment had arrived. He halted his movements, picked up the bird's nest tinder bundle, then carefully scraped the glowing embers from the fireboard notch onto the dry grass with his knife. Cupping the tinder bundle in both hands, he blew soft, gentle breaths into its center. Thick white smoke billowed out moments later. He gave the bundle a few light shakes. A soft whoosh echoed out. Within seconds, the smoke faded, replaced by vivid orange flames blazing in the tinder nest. Li Mu had successfully created fire. He set the burning tinder beneath the twig tripod. Crackling pops echoed as the dry twigs ignited, the flames growing steadily stronger. He tossed several larger logs onto the fire to build up a robust campfire. Li Mu's campfire blazed to life, casting bright illumination across the darkening woodland. Drones broadcast the entire fire-starting sequence live to every viewer, leaving the audience stunned and speechless. It took a moment for the crowd to process what they had witnessed, then the entire live stream exploded in excitement. Holy cow, that's insane! Li Mu is an absolute legend. I'm officially your biggest fan now, Mu God. I can't believe how effortlessly he produced an open flame. I timed it. From the first spindle rotation to a fully lit campfire took only 5 minutes. Others struggle for 3 hours with zero success, and he pulls it off in 5 minutes. The gap in skill levels is staggering. Where are all the doubters now? Feeling embarrassed yet? Guess they've gone quiet. Let me quote Li Mu, who really thinks starting a friction fire is hard. Li Mu's 5-minute fire starting feat sent massive shockwaves through the viewing audience. Word spread rapidly online, hordes of skeptical spectators flooding into his live stream room. Viewership numbers for Li Mu's channel surged exponentially, drawing the attention of the official 365 Days of Wilderness Survival production team. Inside a luxurious broadcast control room stood a wall lined with over 1,000 monitor screens. Several screens had gone dark with inactive feeds, yet the remaining displays created a dizzying landscape of live footage. Technicians sat stationed before the screens, focused on their work. Seated centrally was Wang Yanghua, the show's chief director in his 40s, clutching a walkie-talkie and intently monitoring the feeds. His gaze remained fixed on one screen slightly right of center, the live footage of Li Mu. He lifted the walkie-talkie to his mouth and spoke slowly. Director, switch the main broadcast feed to stream 666, contestant Li Mu. Aside from individual private live streams for each of the 1,000 contestants, the program ran a central main broadcast channel hosted by 3 professional commentators. Up until this point, the hosts had been covering footage from the most famous veteran contestants. Seasoned, skilled participants widely tipped as potential overall winners. Following the chief director's order, the feed cut over to Li Mu's live footage. The hosts immediately pulled up Li Mu's contestant profile, assuming he was another established expert hiding under an unfamiliar face. After all, only top competitors earned airtime on the main broadcast feed. Upon reviewing his file, however, they discovered Li Mu was just an ordinary civilian participant with no prior wilderness experience. Li Mu is displaying remarkable skill. He's built a stable campfire, secured coconuts for sustenance, and claimed a solid cave shelter. He'll make it safely through his first night without issue, commented Chen Jian, a 30-year-old host known for his eloquence and broadcast experience. He must be a hidden expert. His official background records are completely ordinary, yet his field performance is outstanding, added Lin Yijing, a graceful young female host with a warm, sweet voice who served as the program's primary on-camera face. The production team quickly edited a highlight reel showcasing Li Mu cracking coconuts, constructing a fish trap, and starting fire via friction. Projecting the clip in the upper corner of the main broadcast feed, viewers reacted with awe watching his seamless string of survival wins. Li Mu is absolutely incredible. On day 1 of island survival, he secured water, food, shelter, and fire all at once. This is the perfect opening scenario. Compared to him, those so-called professional survival influencers look incompetent. Max, what is your assessment of Li Mu's performance? Lin Yijing turned to address the third host. This panel member was a foreign man with sharp facial features and graying facial hair, a world-renowned wilderness exploration specialist. With an impressive resume, summiting the world's highest mountain, completing a 60-day solo survival stay on an uninhabited island, and countless other rugged expeditions. His extensive field knowledge made him the program's official expert guest commentator. Max stared intently at Li Mu on screen, clear admiration shining in his eyes. I hold very high hopes for this young man, Max began. How many people can knock ripe coconuts down using only stones? Li Mu accomplished it with ease. We all recognize how difficult friction fire starting truly is, yet he executed the whole process with incredible fluidity. His fire starting technique surpasses most professional wilderness specialists, placing him in a league of his own. Only people raised deep in the wild since childhood could possibly match his skill level with open flame creation. This young man is extraordinarily talented. Max did nothing to conceal his genuine praise for Li Mu. Given Max's respected reputation in the outdoor community, his glowing review drove even more viewers to seek out Li Mu's private livestream. His view count skyrocketed instantly, jumping from a mere tens of thousands to 5 million concurrent viewers, matching the audience sizes of the competition's most famous veteran contestants. Night had fallen across the deserted island, yet bright flames burned steadily beside Li Mu's cave shelter. Seated beside the campfire, Li Mu coated dry logs with scraped coconut pulp to make the fire burn slower and longer. He grabbed a lit torch and left the cave, following the stream back to where he had submerged his fish trap earlier. Water splashed loudly as Li Mu hauled the trap upward, water draining out through its woven gaps. He reached into the bottom of the trap and felt slippery, wriggling creatures thrashing against his palm. A faint smile tugged at his lips. I've caught something. Holding the torch high to illuminate the trap interior, he spotted 2 grass carp weighing roughly 1 gene each. The fish would make for a hearty evening meal. Back at his shelter, Li Mu efficiently scaled the fish, removed their innards, and cleaned the flesh thoroughly. He skewered the fish on thin branches and positioned them over the fire to roast, cutting empty coconut husks in half and setting them directly onto the embers to bake. Once his tasks were done, he rested beside the flames sipping fresh coconut water, while waiting for his roasted dinner to cook. He's drinking coconut water with grilled fish and baked coconut flesh. This hardly feels like a survival challenge, more like a tropical vacation. Other contestants are suffering terribly in comparison. I just saw another participant with no water, food, shelter, or fire. He looks ready to drop out entirely. The gap in people's capabilities is truly staggering. Comments flooded Li Mu's live stream nonstop. It was not long before Li Mu's dinner finished cooking. His cooking skills were surprisingly refined, honed from years of studying culinary techniques in his past life. Juicy oil sizzled off the grilled carp over the flames. When Li Mu took a bite, the fish meat was crisp on the outside and tender within, cooked to absolute perfection. Melt-in-your-mouth fish flesh paired with chilled, sweet coconut water and rich, aromatic baked coconut flesh made for an immensely satisfying supper. While Li Mu warmed himself by fire and savored his meal, other contestants struggled miserably across the island. 10 kilometers away from Li Mu's campsite, deep within another stretch of woodland, a different contestant endured hardship. Achoo! It's freezing out here. Chun Ming rubbed his arms vigorously to ward off the biting cold, shivering uncontrollably. The air was sweltering in short sleeves this afternoon. How did the temperature drop this drastically? Shadows swallowed his surroundings completely. He had failed to build any fire for warmth. He had no proper food rations on hand, and a swollen, painful lump bulged on his kneecap from an injury. Chun Ming was trapped in a dire predicament. The temperature difference between day and night on this deserted island is brutal. Without protective clothing, surviving the nighttime cold is nearly impossible without a campfire, one viewer remarked in Chun Ming's live chat. To make matters worse, he has no water or food plus a fresh injury. His situation is extremely dangerous. He should withdraw from the contest if possible. There's no need to push himself past his limits. Will I not even make it through the very first day? Chun Ming muttered to himself. He had signed up for 365 days of wilderness survival, chasing the massive cash prize payout. Unfortunately, he possessed minimal practical survival knowledge, only a total novice competitor. His original plan was simply to endure 1 month on the island to claim a 1,000,000 yuan reward. The moment the challenge officially began, however, he realized just how brutal the wilderness test really was. Though he had safely parachuted onto the island, every subsequent step went wrong. He failed to locate drinkable water, edible food, or a safe shelter, and carelessly wounded his knee along the way. Without proper wound care, the injury had become inflamed and swollen badly. Plagued by injury, hunger, thirst, and frigid temperatures, Chun Ming was worn thin both physically and mentally. Tempted repeatedly to quit the competition, thoughts of the prize money kept him clinging on. However, his stomach rumbled loudly with hunger pangs. Sleep is the only option left, he whispered to himself. hoping sleep would dull the sharp pangs of starvation. Yet the bitter cold and throbbing knee pain kept him wide awake, tossing and turning restlessly. Soft rustling noises suddenly cut through the forest silence. Jolted alert, Chun Ming scrambled upright to scan his surroundings. Cold sweat beaded across his forehead, and his legs trembled violently under the faint glow of moonlight. A pair of glowing eyes stared back at him from the darkness. A large wild wolf bared its teeth in a low, rumbling growl, locking its gaze firmly onto Chun Ming. Saliva dripped from the wolf's sharp fangs. It had marked him as prey. Chun Ming's heart hammered violently against his ribs, paralyzed by raw terror. The wolf lowered its body into a predatory crouch, ready to pounce at any second. As the beast lunged forward, Chun Ming scrambled desperately toward a nearby tree trunk. His injured knee slowed his movements drastically. The wolf closed the distance in an instant, leaping toward his wounded left leg with jaws open. Viewers watching the live feed held their breath at the terrifying scene. By sheer luck, Chun Ming dodged the wolf's attack at the last possible second. "I would have lost my life if I'd reacted even a split second slower," he gasped, trembling with lingering fright as he watched the wolf below the tree. The wolf had clamped its jaws onto a section of his trouser leg, growling furiously in frustration. It circled the tree continuously, snarling and never taking its eyes off Chun Ming, refusing to leave the area anytime soon. Fear gnawed deeper into Chun Ming's heart. He had already realized the wild wolf intended to wear him down over the long haul. The wolf could afford to wait, but he could not. Dehydration, starvation, bitter cold, open wounds. Chun Ming possessed no remaining resources to sustain this stalemate against the beast. What was worse, straining his body moments earlier had aggravated his injury, worsening the damage to his knee drastically. Eyes locked with the wolf's, neither dared to make the first move as time slipped slowly by. Risk always walks hand in hand with reward. Watching Chun Ming's predicament makes it crystal clear just how brutal Wilderness Survival 365 truly is, one viewer commented in the live stream. "I honestly think Chun Ming should withdraw right now. He has zero chance of pushing onward at this point." Agreed. Pull out and get proper medical treatment immediately, or he'll permanently cripple his left leg. Viewers watching the live broadcast had all but written Chun Ming off entirely. Meanwhile, on the deserted island, Chun Ming endured torment both physically and mentally. After a long moment of deliberation, he resolved to open his emergency rescue pack. "I chased a massive cash prize, yet I can't even survive the very first day. How ridiculous," Chun Ming muttered in self-deprecation. He then pulled out the emergency phone and contacted the official team running Wilderness Survival 365. His decision to forfeit the challenge was final. Officials monitored every contestant round the clock and responded with remarkable speed. Rescue personnel arrived shortly afterward. They chased the wolf away and evacuated Chun Ming from the island. Chun Ming officially withdrew from the competition, and his personal livestream feed went offline. Chun Ming was far from the only participant to drop out. A total of 1,000 competitors had joined this season of Wilderness Survival 365, and nearly 100 had surrendered for a wide range of reasons by this moment. These withdrawers included not just inexperienced amateurs, but also many seasoned survival veterans, laying bare the unforgiving nature of this extreme challenge for all audiences to see. Li Mu's performance looks absolutely stellar in comparison. He's practically living comfortably out there right now. I'm more convinced than ever that Li Mu will last until the very end. Through this stark contrast, viewers fully grasp just how exceptional Li Mu's wilderness survival capabilities really were. Crackle, crackle. Li Mu tossed another log onto his campfire, stoking the flames higher. He was immensely thankful he had managed to build this fire. It had become an indispensable lifeline. It kept him warm after dark, lit up his surroundings, allowed him to cook food, and warded off predatory wildlife. Full and refreshed, he prepared to rest for the night. He adjusted the firewood carefully to ensure the embers would not die out overnight, then lay down on ground lined with parachute fabric and drifted off to sleep. Most other contestants had also settled in for rest across the island. Besides Li Mu, several other competitors were also faring quite well. A dozen kilometers west of Li Mu's campsite, a clear brook wound its way through the terrain, with a crackling fire burning beside its banks. 2 empty coconut husks and half a leftover grilled fish sat near the flames, while a man rested atop a bed of dried grass. This Westerner, Austin Roy, sported short blonde hair, a high nose, an elongated facial structure, and bright blue eyes. He was a globally famous public figure beloved by countless fans, who affectionately nicknamed him Roy the Veteran. The public widely regarded him as a top contender to win the whole challenge. backed by an impeccable resume of extreme achievements. He was a retired elite Special Forces soldier from the West, a summiter of Mount Everest, the world's highest peak, and a veteran participant in dozens of grueling extreme sports events. Roy had wasted no time showcasing his prowess upon arriving on the island. Within his first 24 hours ashore, his extensive field knowledge allowed him to secure clean water, edible food, and a steady fire source without struggle. Though he had not located a natural cave for shelter, his makeshift camp was still more than functional. From Roy's perspective, these basic survival necessities posed hardly any difficulty at all. He was already drafting plans to construct a sturdier, more sophisticated shelter in the days ahead. Li Mu and Roy enjoyed relatively comfortable conditions, and they were not alone in their good fortune. Noy's Carey, known to fans as Old Noy, was a burly retired military officer with a thick beard who had previously trekked across the world's largest rainforest on foot. The first day's island hardships barely fazed him in the slightest. Other top-tier competitors also populated the competition roster. Renowned survival expert Zhang Chong, wild specialist Micah Barker, and Paul Pick, dubbed Child of Nature. These men were the undisputed elite of this survival contest. Even so, contestants with secure shelter, sustained fire, and full bellies like Li Mu remained a small minority. Many others endured bitter cold and gnawing hunger, forcing themselves to tough out the night empty-handed. Some had only managed to spark a small fire and resigned themselves to enduring hunger through the dark hours. Silence fell across the vast, deserted island. The moon sank below the horizon, sunlight spilled over the ocean, and a brand new day dawned. Li Mu stretched lazily toward the rising sun, walking to the brook to splash cold water over his face, jolting himself fully awake. He added more kindling to keep his campfire burning strong. Gurgle, gurgle, nothing beats sipping cool, sweet coconut water first thing in the morning. Li Mu sighed with satisfaction. He then sorted through his priorities for the coming day. I've been stranded on this island for a full 2 days now, Li Mu murmured to himself. The words triggered a sudden realization, prompting him to open his wilderness check-in system immediately to claim his daily reward. A crisp electronic tone echoed in his ears the instant he completed the check-in. Ding. Check-in successfully renewed. Current consecutive check-in days, 2 ding. You have received the skill reward, Master Fisherman. Master Fisherman grants complete mastery over elite fishing techniques. A flood of specialized knowledge instantly flooded Li Mu's mind. Methods for crafting efficient fishing gear, identifying areas teeming with plump fish, precise spearing motions, and optimal fishing timings. With this comprehensive knowledge, Li Mu was now a true master angler. Shock quickly morphed into elation. This reward was incredibly valuable for his long-term survival. Food security was paramount out in the wild, and fish represented the most abundant natural food resource across the entire island. His original woven fish trap had caught small carp the previous day, yet it suffered from obvious flaws. Low catch rates, excessive time investment, and only yielding undersized fish. His newly acquired elite fishing skills outmatched that crude trap by a wide margin. Eager to test his newfound ability in practice, Li Mu grabbed his utility knife and headed east along the brook. After a 30-minute hike, he arrived at a thick bamboo grove. Viewers watching the live stream immediately voiced their curiosity. What's Li Mu planning to do now? Their questions were quickly answered as they watched his movements unfold. Li Mu chopped down a sturdy bamboo stalk, split the pole lengthwise down the middle with his knife, then cut 2 symmetrical slits into the wood. He repeated the process, carving 8 evenly spaced radial cuts that divided the bamboo shaft into 8 identical segments. Using thin bamboo sticks as wedges, he pried the slits apart to form narrow bamboo strips roughly 20 centimeters long. Now equipped with an 8-pronged frame, Li Mu sharpened the tip of every bamboo strip to a fine point. I get it. He's building a fishing spear. The craftsmanship on this spear looks absolutely flawless. An 8-pronged spear makes hitting fish far more reliable. Perfect material selection paired with immaculate carving work. This spear is top-tier quality. While viewers marveled at his handiwork, Li Mu finished assembling the full fishing spear. The finished tool stood 2 meters long with a balanced weight distribution, fitting perfectly within his grip. Li Mu was thoroughly pleased with his creation. He then cut open another short section of bamboo, drilling 2 tiny holes into its walls. Twisting dry grass fibers into a sturdy cord, he threaded the rope through the drilled openings to fashion a simple portable bamboo water flask. He went on to carve a bamboo bowl and a pair of bamboo chopsticks before retracing his steps back to his campsite. Once home, Li Mu rinsed the bamboo flask thoroughly, filling it with fresh spring water collected from the mountain runoff. He hung the flask from a wooden rack over the fire to boil the water inside. With all preparations complete, he slung his new fishing spear and original fish trap over his shoulder and set off downstream along the brook to begin fishing. Shortly afterward, he reached a deep pool ringed with dense reed beds along the brook's banks. Per the knowledge from his master fisherman's skill set, large fish tended to hide within these reedy depths. The reeds provided excellent cover for aquatic life and blocked clear sight lines from the bank. Yet the crystal-clear water let Li Mu spot fish swimming beneath the vegetation with careful observation. Just as he predicted, the fish dwelling here were significantly larger in size. Every fish visible in the pool was grass carp, each weighing no less than 2.5 kilograms, dwarfed the 1 kilogram grass carp he had caught the day prior. Li Mu moved with painstaking caution, tracking the movements of the fish beneath the surface. His plan was to strike swiftly and accurately without startling his target. He locked onto a single grass carp weighing roughly 3.5 to 4 kilograms, gliding slowly through the water completely oblivious to the incoming threat. This is my chance. Li Mu held his breath, gripping the upper middle section of the spear shaft and launching his weapon in one fluid motion. Blessed with the physical conditioning of an elite special forces operative, he wielded tremendous striking force. Whoosh! The spear sliced through the air before piercing straight down into the water, aimed dead center at his target. The grass carp sensed danger and attempted to dart away, but it was already far too late. Splash! The sharp spear tips pierced clean through the fish's body, pinning it firmly to the riverbed and immobilizing it entirely. Nice! Li Mu exclaimed as he lifted the spear out of the water. 4 of the 8 spear prongs had driven straight through the large grass carp, which thrashed weakly against the metal tips in a futile struggle. A single throw, a perfect catch, Li Mu had secured a substantial haul of fresh fish. Li Mu's live stream chat erupted with excitement from the watching audience. Holy heck, that was effortless. It almost makes me think I could pull that off too. Trust me, you absolutely could not. One throw and he lands a 4-kilogram carp with 0 effort. Li Mu is insanely skilled. That big fish never stood a chance against him. Li Mu is an absolute legend. Forget calling him Li Mu from now on. Let's dub him Lord Mu. Now he's got himself another hearty feast to enjoy. This seamless display of skill earned Li Mu a flood of new followers instantly. The official broadcast feed for Wilderness Survival 365 simultaneously streamed Li Mu's footage to the global audience. Chen Jian and Lin Yijing stared at the screen in undisguised shock. Neither had imagined fishing could be executed with such effortless precision. A simple spear toss yielding a hefty, fresh fish seemed unbelievable on the surface. Yet logic told them this feat was only easy when performed by someone of Li Mu's caliber. Very few people in the world could replicate that level of accuracy and control. They stared in stunned disbelief, just as they had when they watched Li Mu knock down coconuts with thrown stones the day before. Impossible as it seemed, every detail had unfolded right before their eyes. Li Mu's capabilities are genuinely extraordinary. His performances keep shattering my preconceptions of what ordinary contestants can achieve, Lin Yijing commented. I couldn't agree more. This unassuming regular person possesses a frightening level of practical survival skill. Chen Jian replied in agreement. Max, the professional wilderness survival expert invited as a competition commentator, spoke up next. His gaze fixed on Li Mu filled with undisguised admiration. Good heavens, Li's skill level is phenomenal. Every step, from spear construction to scouting prey and executing the spear strike, displays textbook professional technique. A flawless fusion of theoretical knowledge and real-world practice. We can clearly see this carp was swimming at least half a meter below the water's surface, yet water resistance barely affected the spear's trajectory, striking its target with pinpoint accuracy. This speaks volumes about Li's impeccable throwing form and raw physical power. Spearing a large fish with a single strike is an extremely difficult feat for most survival practitioners, yet Li accomplishes it with total ease. Li fully deserves the title of Master Fisherman. Max did not hold back his praise for Li Mu in the slightest. After the professional survival expert's breakdown, viewers finally comprehended just how refined Li Mu's fishing technique truly was. Li Mu placed his freshly caught carp into his woven fish trap and set his sights on a second large fish in the pool. He waited patiently for the ideal opening before hurling the spear once more. Splash! Li Mu lifted the spear, now impaled with a second grass carp weighing roughly 2.5 kilograms. He struck a third time moments afterward, spearing a third carp of around 3 kilograms. 3 casts, 3 flawless hits. A lucky strike once is coincidence, but 3 perfect catches in a row is pure, unrivaled skill. Lord Mu is officially my idol. I never thought fishing could be this straightforward. Li Mu has completely rewritten my understanding of wilderness foraging. Viewers continued to express their awe in the live chat. That's more than enough fish for me, Li Mu muttered to himself. Combined, his 3 catches totaled nearly 10 kilograms of fresh fish, more than sufficient to satisfy his dietary needs for the coming days. What a bountiful harvest, he said cheerfully, gathering up his fish trap and spear to head back toward his shelter. The master fisherman's skill lives up to its name without question, Li Mu thought to himself. With elite fishing techniques fully mastered, he would never again face shortages of food out on the island. Upon returning to camp, Li Mu immediately began cleaning his freshly caught fish while they were still alive and fresh. Knowing dead fish spoiled quickly in the tropical heat, freshly prepared fish always tasted far superior to spoiled catch. He scaled the carp, gutted them, and cut deep slits into the flesh for even cooking. He skewered the 2.5-kilogram whole carp over the fire for roasting, then filleted the remaining 2 larger fish to smoke and preserve as dried fish slices for long-term storage. With the fish set up to cook, all he could do was wait for them to finish preparing. Bubble, bubble, Li Mu noticed the water inside his bamboo flask had reached a rolling boil. The thick bamboo construction held up perfectly against the open flame with no signs of cracking or leaking. Untreated wild freshwater harbors countless harmful bacteria. Drinking unboiled water could easily trigger severe diarrhea and dehydration out in the wilderness. Suffering from diarrhea or dehydration while stranded on an isolated island was a lethal risk, almost guaranteeing failure to survive the challenge. Boiling water thoroughly eradicated harmful microbes, rendering the water safe for consumption. Once the flask cooled to a drinkable temperature, Li Mu took a slow, careful sip. Pure bliss, he sighed contentedly. This was the first boiled drinking water he had consumed since arriving on the island. Plain boiled water really is irreplaceable, Li Mu murmured quietly. He sipped the warm water while carefully tending the fire's heat, monitoring the progress of his roasting carp. Before long, the carp's exterior turned golden brown, sizzling and dripping with hot oil over the flames. The roast was ready to eat. The fish meat was tender and flaky, crispy on the outside and soft on the inside with every bite. Incredibly flavorful. Even so, a flicker of disappointment crossed Li Mu's face as he ate. The only downside is the lack of seasonings. This fish would taste incredible with just a pinch of salt, he mused inwardly. Stranded on the island with 0 condiments, even his refined grilling skills could only produce plain, unseasoned fish. He was certain salt would elevate the dish's flavor dramatically, yet securing salt was not feasible with his current supplies and setup. Once my basic camp is fully established, I'll start experimenting with salt production to improve my standard of living, Li Mu resolved firmly. Still, manufacturing salt was not a top priority for the time being. Full and relaxed after his fish meal, Li Mu rested beside the crackling campfire. Glancing beside him, he spotted only a single remaining coconut left in his stockpile. I need to gather more coconuts soon, he decided. After a short rest, he got back to his feet to carry out his plan. Instead of heading straight for the beach, he walked back into the woodland area he had explored the previous day with his utility knife in hand. He first collected a bundle of dry firewood before searching for wild vines with exceptional tensile strength. These vines make fantastic natural cordage material, Li Mu remarked as he cut several thick vine stalks. He wove them together into a large, coarse net. Viewers watching the stream immediately voiced their speculation. What's Lord Mu planning to use this big woven net for? Another fishing tool? Definitely not for fishing. The mesh gaps are far too wide to trap fish. Is he making it to carry supplies instead? One viewer guessed. That makes perfect sense. The large mesh openings won't stop solid coconuts from falling through, so it's ideal for hauling them back to camp. I agree with that theory. This net is more than sturdy enough for hauling coconuts. Li Mu's subsequent actions confirmed the audience's hypothesis. He carried the large vine net out onto the sandy beach and walked over to a tall coconut palm heavy with ripe fruit. Setting the net down on the sand, he picked up a smooth stone from the ground. The livestream audience grew visibly excited. Here we go again. Time to watch Lord Mu's legendary stone-throwing skill. Precise hits every single time, knocking coconuts down without fail. No one else pulls this off so seamlessly. Standard routine for him at this point. Nothing out of the ordinary for Lord Mu. Every viewer fixed their full attention on the screen, unwilling to miss a single second of Li Mu's display. One after another, coconuts crashed down from the treetops with dull thuds. Thud, thud, thud. Both young green coconuts and mature dried husks fell to the ground without exception. Li Mu's aim was pinpoint perfect. Every stone he threw dislodged at least one coconut from the branches. Lord Mu's skill is truly unmatched. Watching this never fails to blow my mind, one viewer wrote in chat. The gap in skill between Li Mu and every other contestant is wider than I ever imagined. I don't have fancy words to describe it. This is just ridiculously awesome. Li Mu halted his throws after several minutes. That should be plenty, he said, staring at the pile of coconuts scattered across the sand. He gathered all the fallen fruit and piled them into the woven vine net, counting a total of 20 coconuts once finished. More than enough to sustain him for an extended period. Time to head back. Li Mu tightened the net into a sling-like sack, slung the weight of the coconuts over his shoulders. Then he set off back toward his wilderness shelter. Each coconut was roughly the same size, weighing between 1 and 2 kilograms. In total, Li Mu was carrying nearly 40 kilograms on his back. Even with such a heavy load, his pace never slowed down. Though he did not move quickly, his footsteps were steady as he advanced at a constant speed. Half an hour passed, yet viewers noticed Li Mu's facial expression remained unchanged. Only faint sweat beaded his forehead, and he showed no signs of heavy breathing. Most remarkably, his speed had not lessened in the slightest. Carrying almost 40 kilos feels this effortless to him. His physical fitness is absolutely monstrous. God Mu keeps blowing my mind. We can no longer judge him by ordinary human standards. Everyone watched Li Mu trudge steadily forward under his heavy burden, once more overwhelmed with shock. The beach was still a fair distance away from his shelter. Li Mu trekked for 2 full hours with the coconuts strapped to his back before finally arriving back at his camp. Phew! He let out a long sigh of relief after setting down the nearly 40-kilogram pile of coconuts. The 2 hours of continuous weighted walking barely tired him out, yet the blistering tropical sun left him parched with thirst. Crack! Li Mu smashed open a young coconut on the spot, drinking its juice to rehydrate and replenish his energy. With ample food and firewood secured, he turned his attention to other tasks. Heading deeper into the uninhabited island, he gathered a large bundle of palm fronds. Palm fronds made for excellent natural bedding in the wild. After spreading the foliage across the ground inside his cave, his sleeping quarters were vastly improved compared to the previous night. Glancing up at the sky, he saw the sun dipping west. Darkness would soon fall. Grabbing his fishing spear, he headed downstream toward the stream. He then treated the live stream audience to an impressive display of skill. He hurled the spear with full force, and when he pulled it back out of the water, a 3-kilogram large fish was impaled on its tip. Carrying his catch, he made his way back to the shelter as night slowly settled over the island. He decided to call it a day for his outdoor activities. He cleaned the fish thoroughly and set about roasting it over the fire. Just like the night before, his dinner consisted of grilled fish, baked coconut flesh, and fresh coconut water. Once full and refreshed, he settled down to rest. The cave served as a natural shelter, yet Li Mu was far from satisfied with his current living space. While it offered more than enough room for one person, it fell short of his standards. Now that his basic survival needs were met, it was time for him to upgrade his quality of life. I need to build a proper shelter next, Li Mu muttered to himself. He sat beside the crackling fire, brainstorming a construction plan. The contestants taking part in the 365 Days of Wilderness Survival Challenge possessed wildly varying skill levels. While Li Mu was devising ways to live more comfortably, many other participants were still struggling just to stay alive. Some had scraped through their first day relying solely on high pain tolerance and cold resistance. But they had failed to locate clean water or edible food by the second day. Starvation had left them severely weakened, and prolonged exposure to harsh sunlight without proper hydration had caused dangerous dehydration. Others were hampered by injuries and poor physical condition. A handful had drunk unsafe stagnant water in desperate thirst, resulting in severe diarrhea that put their lives at serious risk. Several more had even encountered aggressive wild animals. Dozens more contestants chose to withdraw from the competition on the second day due to these various hardships. This stark contrast only made Li Mu's exceptional wilderness capabilities earn greater admiration from the viewing public. Night passed, and the sun rose once again over the island. After stretching his body and eating breakfast, Li Mu got ready to begin his work for the day. He opened his system interface and tapped the daily sign-in option. The familiar mechanical tone echoed inside his head. Ding. Daily sign-in successful. Current consecutive sign-in days. 3. Ding. Reward received. Master Craftsman Proficiency. Master Craftsman grants peak-tier expertise in all forms of fabrication and construction work. Li Mu grew visibly excited upon seeing this reward. The system really knows exactly what I need, he thought to himself. With top-tier crafting abilities now unlocked, He had the perfect skill set to build his new shelter. He already had a clear blueprint for the project mapped out in his mind. He walked down to the stream, rolled up his trouser cuffs, and stepped into the shallow running water. The live stream viewers watched his odd behavior with visible confusion. What's God Mood doing now? He can't be fishing. He didn't bring his spear with him. Is he going to show us how to catch fish with his bare hands? Bullet screen comments flooded the display as viewers speculated over his actions. Meanwhile, Limu walked upstream, eyes fixed intently on the water's surface, ignoring the schools of fish darting away in fright. Catching fish was never his objective. He suddenly came to a halt, reached into the current, and pulled a stone from the riverbed. Why pick up rocks out of nowhere? The audience was thoroughly confused, unable to guess his reasoning for collecting stones from the stream. Limu turned the stone over in his palm and studied its surface closely before shaking his head in disappointment and tossing it aside. The rock did not meet his requirements. He continued his search, inspecting every stone he fished out of the water before discarding most of them. A few sharp-eyed viewers in the chat began to piece together his goal. Every stone he retrieved featured a pointed, sharp edge on one side. Moments later, Limu lifted a large stone from the water, his face lighting up with obvious elation. He had found exactly what he was looking for. The stone was shaped like a triangular pyramid with an extremely sharp cutting face. Viewers immediately put two and two together. I get it now. He's sourcing cutting tools. That sharp rock is basically a natural giant axe. Totally agree with that comment. Now everything makes sense. Limu climbed back onto the riverbank and headed straight for his shelter, a faint smile tugging at his lips. This sharp stone is absolutely perfect, he mused. His plan was to construct his shelter using bamboo poles, yet his only cutting tool up to this point was a compact military pocket knife. Chopping down large quantities of bamboo solely with a small blade would be extremely time-consuming and physically draining. This natural stone axe solved that problem entirely. A workman must first sharpen his tools if he is to do his work well. This will make the whole construction process far easier. A surge of good mood washed over him. Equipped with his natural stone axe, military knife, water flask, and 2 whole coconuts, Limu traveled to the thick bamboo grove he had found the previous day. After setting his belongings down on the ground, he got straight to work. Standing before a tall, thick bamboo stalk, he raised the sharp stone axe and swung its bladed edge hard against the stalk. Creak! A loud splitting sound rang out as the bamboo bent heavily under the blow, though it had not fully snapped. Limu delivered a second powerful strike. Crash! The bamboo toppled completely to the ground. Felling such a sturdy stalk required minimal effort for him. This works brilliantly, Limu muttered quietly as he examined his stone tool. The live stream chat erupted with excitement once more. Are you kidding me? He cut down a bamboo as thick as a human palm with such ease. Even an ordinary person with a standard steel axe would spend ages hacking through that. Is anyone surprised at this point? This is Godmu we're talking about. His abilities are off the charts. It just goes to show how immense his physical strength truly is. We might as well sit back and enjoy the show and cheer him on. More bamboo stalks crashed to the ground one after another. The stone edge was naturally sharp, amplified by Limu's elite special forces level physical strength. The combined impact cleanly severed bamboo stalks with every swing. He maintained a fast cutting pace with barely any drop in efficiency as more and more bamboo cleared a wide section within the grove. After nearly an hour of nonstop chopping, he paused to rest. Sweat soaked his skin, yet his breathing remained calm and his complexion steady. He's been cutting bamboo for an hour and isn't even winded. This defies all logic. My goodness, how is he this strong? Did someone else do all that chopping for him without us noticing? Chopping bamboo for an hour tires him less than a casual 10-minute jog tires the average person. Wake up, you could never keep up with his level of fitness. Limu cracked open a coconut and drank its juice to replenish fluids. The physical toll of felling bamboo was negligible for his physique, but heavy perspiration meant he needed to restore his water levels promptly. He counted his harvest, well over 100 thick bamboo poles, each at least as wide as a rice bowl. This amount should be more than enough for construction, he thought to himself. After a short break, he resumed work, using his pocket knife to harvest sturdy vines for binding the bamboo together. Now that the bamboo was felled, he needed to haul all the timber back to his campsite, a task even more labor-intensive than cutting the bamboo itself. The grove was a 20-minute walk away from his shelter, and traveling while hauling heavy loads would lengthen the trip significantly. Each bowl-thick bamboo pole weighed no less than 10 kilograms apiece. Limu resolved to carry 10 poles per trip. He tightly bound the 10 bamboos together with vines and set off toward camp hauling the heavy bundle. Even carrying over 100 kilograms of timber, his walking speed barely faltered. His superhuman special forces conditioning rendered this load trivial. That bundle has to weigh over 100 kilos, but it barely slows him down at all. He's moving at nearly the exact same pace as when he's carrying nothing. He'd be moving even faster if the uneven terrain wasn't holding him back. Normal human metrics simply do not apply to God Mu. Viewers watched as Li Mu returned to the cave clearing with his heavy bamboo load in only 20 minutes. Instead of resting, he immediately turned around to head back to the grove. Isn't he going to pause and catch his breath first? Rest? This level of exertion is nothing to him. He doesn't need downtime whatsoever. Truly worthy of the title God Mu, his stamina is incredible. Li Mu continued shuttling back and forth between the bamboo grove and his campsite, hauling 10 heavy poles each return trip. His formidable physique allowed him to sustain his walking speed unhindered despite the massive weight he transported. Heavy panting sounds echoed as Li Mu staggered back into the cave and collapsed to rest. He drank coconut water in large gulps to rehydrate and gradually recovered his stamina. While a single 100-kilogram load was manageable, the sheer volume of trips wore on his body over time. He had made 5 round trips, transporting 50 bamboo poles in total across 2 hours of continuous travel while holding a consistent speed the entire time. 5 round trips in 2 hours with 100 kilos each haul, all at a steady pace. This man is inhumanly tough. He's insane. I couldn't make 5 empty-handed round trips in 2 hours, never mind hauling that much weight. Don't forget the total distance between camp and the grove is 3 kilometers one way. I'm utterly stunned by his physical prowess. Li Mu rested inside the cave for 30 minutes. His body recovered rapidly, and he was back to full vigor in no time before heading out to the bamboo grove once again. Thud! He dropped the final bundle of bamboo beside his shelter and let out a relieved exhale. Viewers watched the entire process of him ferrying the remaining bamboo supplies back to camp in another 5 round trips completed in under 2 hours. I'm lost for words. Absolute legend. No one compares to God Mu. Cheers erupted across the live stream chat. Now that I have all my bamboo stockpiled, the first phase of shelter construction is complete, Li Mu murmured as he stared at the large pile of timber before him. Cutting and transporting the bamboo had eaten up most of the day, and afternoon was well underway, with sunset fast approaching. Following a brief rest, Li Mu began constructing his shelter, starting with the foundational frame. He stood and surveyed the surrounding landscape, picking out a flat patch of stable soil for his build site before commencing work. Gripping his sharp stone axe, he drove its pointed tip into the ground and pried up clumps of earth, accelerating his digging rhythm shortly after. Wow, he repurposed his stone axe into a makeshift digging shovel. What's he digging trenches for exactly? God Mu always has a plan we can't see yet. To the audience's amazement, Li Mu dug 4 deep pits using nothing but the single sharp stone. In his capable hands, the crude rock tool outperformed a standard shovel. This was largely thanks to his immense physical strength paired with refined field technique that maximized the stone's utility. He kept digging until 4 pits were finished, arranged to form a perfect quadrilateral, each dug roughly 30 centimeters deep. He dug one additional pit roughly 1 meter away from one corner of the quadrilateral frame. With all 5 excavation sites ready, he bundled 3 bamboo poles together using vines and lowered the bundled timber into each dug pit. He refilled the holes with loose soil afterwards. He stamped firmly over the filled earth repeatedly to compact the soil and anchor the bamboo securely. He added more dirt to fill any sunken gaps. After 3 rounds of refilling and tamping, the soil was densely packed, locking the bamboo firmly into the ground. A strong gust of wind swept through the area moments later, nearly extinguishing his campfire and shaking the surrounding tree branches violently. Yet the anchored bamboo stalks stood completely motionless against the wind. This anchoring method works perfectly, Li Mu nodded in approval. He repeated the same process to secure each bundled bamboo support into its respective pit. Phew! Finally finished the foundation supports. 5 thick bamboo bundles now stood rigidly anchored into the open ground. So he was laying a foundational frame. This base structure will stop the whole shelter from collapsing easily. Bamboo is the most practical building material available to him right now. This simple foundation design is surprisingly sturdy and reliable. Viewers praised Li Mu's foundational construction work in the bullet screen. Satisfied with the stability of his base frame, Li Mu moved on to the next stage of construction. He laid horizontal bamboo poles between each anchored vertical support and fastened them tightly with woven vine bindings. He repeated the process to build up the wall framework little by little. He enclosed 3 sides of the quadrilateral frame with woven bamboo slats, leaving a gap between 2 support posts to serve as the main entrance to his shelter. The audience watched his efficient progress with keen interest. His building speed is unbelievably fast. Of course he is efficient. He's a trained professional. Building shelter is a monumental task for regular people, but child's play for him. We seriously underestimated his skill level earlier. His efficiency was indeed unmatched. The combination of elite special forces physical conditioning and his newly unlocked master craftsman talent streamlined every construction step. He had already built the bamboo perimeter walls up to a 1-meter height, a feat an average person could not replicate even given an entire working day. Limu constructs shelter frameworks with incredibly professional technique. His skill set is truly outstanding. Max, the official commentator on the main broadcast feed, spoke admiringly. Limu had wowed audiences before with his coconut cracking, fire starting, and spearfishing skills, and once again showcased his unmatched wilderness expertise. With dusk creeping in, he halted construction work for the day to prepare his evening meal. He grabbed his fishing spear and quickly caught another large fish from the stream. Instead of roasting the fish over an open flame as usual, he cleaned the catch and split a thick bamboo stalk cleanly down the middle. After rinsing the hollow bamboo cavity thoroughly, he placed the prepared fish meat inside the split bamboo tube and set the bamboo vessel directly over the campfire to cook. Limu had eaten grilled fish for 2 straight days, so he decided to make bamboo-cooked fish this time. While waiting for the dish to cook, he also got coconut flesh and coconut juice ready. Night fell with the campfire still blazing, and Limu's dinner was finally done. He picked up the bamboo chopsticks he had crafted earlier, picked up a chunk of fish meat, and took a bite. The flesh was incredibly tender, melting the moment it touched his tongue. Compared with grilled fish, this bamboo-cooked dish fully retained the original savory sweetness of the seafood. Limu kept picking up more fish, savoring his meal to the fullest. Viewers watching the live stream looked on with obvious envy at his satisfied expression. Many people's mouths watered instantly, their stomachs growling despite having finished dinner not long ago. Just watching Mushin dig into this meal has made me hungry all over again, even after eating supper. I finally get it. Mushin isn't doing wilderness survival. He's running a wilderness food livestream. Welcome to a bite of the wilderness. The bullet screen was flooded with viewer comments. Back on the deserted island, Limu finished his fish, warmed himself by the fire, and sipped coconut juice as he mapped out his next moves. Food was never a concern for him at all. Thanks to his master-level fishing skills, he had an endless supply of fish to eat. Even so, eating fish every single day grew monotonous eventually. Now that his basic survival needs were covered, his next goal was to upgrade his quality of life. Time to switch up my meals, Limu muttered to himself as he brainstormed ways to source other kinds of food. Sunlight filtered into the cave the next morning, rousing Limu from sleep. The first thing he did upon waking was stretch his limbs to fully wake up his body. He splashed cold stream water on his face, instantly feeling refreshed and invigorated. It's the 4th day since I washed up on this island, he murmured quietly. He already had a clear plan for the day. Besides reinforcing his shelter, he needed to catch more varieties of food to improve his daily meals. Right then, he opened his system interface to carry out his daily routine without fail. Staring at the translucent virtual screen floating before him, he tapped the sign in button. Ding. Daily sign in successful. Current consecutive sign in streak. 4 days. Ding. Reward obtained. Master swimming proficiency. Master swimming proficiency? Limu blinked in surprise before a wide, pleased grin spread across his face. This reward was far more valuable than he could have imagined. With this skill, he mastered every swimming stroke perfectly and could move freely underwater with total ease. The island was surrounded by open ocean. While the land held plenty of resources, the sea boasted far richer, more precious materials along with countless edible marine creatures. Abundant as the ocean's bounty was, it was equally dangerous. High reward always came paired with high risk. Limu had long wanted to forage for seafood in the sea ever since arriving on the island, yet fear of hidden ocean hazards had held him back from acting on the idea. He could swim recreationally well enough to excel at indoor swimming pools, but the open sea was an entirely different, intimidating frontier. He knew his ordinary swimming ability was nowhere near enough to tackle the wild ocean, and he had no wish to meet a tragic accident out in the water. Now equipped with master swimming skills, all those worries vanished completely. He finally had the confidence to venture into the sea to explore its resources. Filled with resolve, Limu got to work immediately after finishing his simple breakfast and headed into a bamboo grove. Crack! A single powerful strike sent a tall bamboo stalk crashing to the ground. He pulled out his small blade and set to work, chopping the bamboo into thin, flexible strips in a steady, methodical rhythm. Meanwhile, the livestream chat was buzzing with speculation. Mushin always has new tricks up his sleeve. What's he making now? He's weaving something out of those bamboo strips for sure. Crafting goods from raw bamboo? This guy's hands are unbelievably skilled. Just wait and see what he comes up with. Viewers watched as Li Mu knelt down, his hands moving rapidly in intricate weaving motions. A bamboo frame gradually took shape in his grasp. His fluid, effortless movements made it obvious that weaving was child's play for him. Before long, his finished craft appeared on screen for all viewers to see. Narrow at the top and wider at the bottom in a tapered cone shape, it functioned far better as a fish trap than a regular bamboo basket. Mushin handcrafted a flawless fish trap. Every detail is perfectly executed. It's practically a work of art. His practical crafting ability is absolutely insane. He never ceases to blow our minds. Truly a master craftsman through and through. The audience erupted in excitement after watching the entire weaving process unfold live. This new trap was vastly superior to the crude bamboo cage he had made on his first day stranded on the island. It boasted refined aesthetics, sturdy build, and larger storage capacity. Truly a functional piece of handiwork worthy of being called art. More importantly, it served its practical purpose perfectly, thanks to his passive master fabrication skill. Constructing a fish trap was a trivial task for him now. With the fish trap finished as his first handcrafted tool of the morning, Li Mu did not pause to rest. He gathered bundles of thin yet tough vines with great tensile strength and wove them into a large fishing net with immaculate technique. Wait a second, after making that perfect fish trap, he just whipped up a premium fishing net like it's nothing? The net quality is top tier, with tiny mesh holes that won't let even small fish or shrimp slip through. This hand-woven net beats anything you can buy commercially. I wouldn't believe this was real if I wasn't watching it happen live. The new fishing net sparked another wave of astonished comments in the stream. All my hunting and fishing gear is ready now. A faint smile tugged at Li Mu's lips. He was about to carry his trap and net back to his campsite when a sudden thought crossed his mind. Grabbing a large sharp rock, he targeted another thick bamboo stalk. Crash! The bamboo toppled to the ground once more. Viewers watched as he split the stalk into segments and sliced them into thin strips again. It did not take long for the audience to figure out his latest project. 10 minutes later, a sturdy bamboo chair stood fully assembled before him. He lifted a heavy boulder and hammered conical bamboo pegs firmly into the joints of the chair frame to lock every component in place. Finally done, Li Mu muttered with satisfaction. Leave it to Mu Shun to build a perfect chair in just 10 minutes flat. Nothing short of supernatural craftsmanship. Another gorgeous handmade piece. I'm starting to think there is nothing this man cannot build from scratch. We can never predict the full extent of his abilities. The previously quiet live stream blew up once again. Li Mu himself was quite satisfied with the chair as well. For the past 3 days, he had only rested on bare dirt or rough stones. Having a proper chair would make his downtime far more comfortable. A fish trap, fishing net, and bamboo chair, 3 impeccable handcrafted items finished in a remarkably short time. All thanks to his powerful master fabrication skill. He gathered up his creations and headed back toward camp, fully prepared to start his seafood hunt. After a short rest back at his campsite, Li Mu got moving again. He followed the stream downstream until he reached a deep, calm pool of water ideal for setting fishing traps. He tossed the woven vine net into the water and scattered crushed coconut flesh inside the mesh as bait. With the stream trap set, he grabbed his bamboo fish trap and fishing spear before heading toward the island's coastline. The scenery opened up wider the closer he drew to the shoreline, until the vast expanse of sapphire ocean stretched out before his eyes. He had reached the beach. The ocean's surface was calm and placid on the surface, yet Li Mu knew deadly threats lurked beneath the peaceful water. Now bolstered by his new swimming mastery, he possessed the capability to handle any underwater dangers he might encounter. He stood at the water's edge and went through a full warm-up routine, well aware that proper preparation drastically lowered the risk of cramps or other life-threatening incidents once submerged. A cramp in open ocean waters with no emergency support would spell disaster on this isolated island, a detail most people overlooked but which Li Mu took extremely seriously. Viewers watching the stream grew confused at the sight. Why is he warming up? He isn't planning to swim out into the open sea, right? That's way too dangerous. The ocean is packed with resources, but I hope Mu Shun doesn't take unnecessary risks. The chat section filled with worried remarks as Li Mu continued loosening up his muscles. Once his warm-up concluded, he dropped a heavy stone into his bamboo fish trap to counteract buoyancy and stop it from floating away underwater. With all preparations complete, he gripped his equipment and stepped slowly into the ocean. Seawater rose past his ankles, then his knees, yet he kept walking deeper without pause until he vanished from the sandy shore. He had dived beneath the waves entirely. The livestream chat exploded into chaos instantly. Is he crazy? Diving into the open ocean with zero protective gear whatsoever. Submerging into deep-sea water carries such extreme risks. But this is Mu Shan, the guy who shocked US countless times before. He wouldn't do this without solid confidence in his own abilities. Let's sit back and watch what he can pull off this time. While many viewers voiced their support, popularity inevitably brought detractors, who seized this moment to flood the chat with mocking messages. Calm down, all these blind fans. Li Mu has some practical skills, but this stunt is basically a suicide attempt. Do you have any idea how many hidden dangers exist in the ocean? Even professional divers hesitate to dive freely like this, let alone an amateur like him. He's clearly acting recklessly without thinking things through. His loyal fans quickly fired back against the hostile comments. Quit running your mouths. You'll be eating your words soon enough. Exactly. Some people just hate seeing others excel. The detractors shot back immediately. Sure, keep praying nothing terrible happens to him down there. Arguments raged back and forth across the bullet screen while the ocean surface remained eerily still. No one watching the stream had any clue what Li Mu was doing beneath the waves. 1 minute passed with no sign of Li Mu surfacing. 2 minutes ticked by, and he was still nowhere to be seen above water. 3 full minutes went by with zero movement on the ocean surface. Concern began to creep over many viewers. An average human could only hold their breath underwater for roughly 2 minutes at maximum. Yet Li Mu had stayed submerged for over 3 minutes, shattering common human limits. Some spectators grew anxious that he may have suffered an accident underwater. The show's official production team noticed the heated commotion in the livestream comments, and the chief director issued an order. The drone hovering overhead activated its waterproof casing and dived under the sea surface to track Li Mu's real-time location via the tracker embedded on his person. The drone quickly locked onto his position, and the live underwater feed broadcasted to every viewer left the entire audience stunned speechless. Li Mu had stayed underwater for more than 4 minutes with no breathing apparatus, moving fluidly with no visible signs of physical strain. Good heavens, how is he holding his breath this long with no adverse effects at all? What kind of lung capacity does this man possess? That's our Mu Shan for you. Detractors, how does it feel getting proven completely wrong? Look at his fish trap, it's almost overflowing. All eyes shifted toward the large bamboo trap, clutched in Li Mu's hands, triggering another wave of shock. The sizable woven container was already stuffed full of foraged goods. Viewers could faintly make out giant crabs, scallops, abalones, and large prawns sealed inside. All premium seafood delicacies. No one could fathom how he had collected such an abundant harvest in such a short window of time. Disappointed they could not witness his full underwater hunting process. Every item he gathered was incredibly valuable, laying bare just how rich the ocean's natural resources truly were. Shortly afterward, the camera followed Li Mu to a patch of reef teeming with large lobsters. He reached out swiftly and snatched one specimen roughly 40 centimeters long and weighing no less than half a kilogram, dropping it securely into his trap and fastening the lid shut. It seemed he was ready to head back to shore. Before ascending, he gathered a handful of high-quality wild kelp as an extra haul. Li Mu gasped for air once he climbed back onto the beach. His bamboo fish trap brimmed with assorted fresh seafood alongside his bundle of premium kelp. Not bad at all, he said, satisfied with his productive harvest. Carrying his loaded trap back toward camp, Li Mu reflected silently on how invaluable his master swimming skill was. He never would have safely collected such a wealth of fresh seafood without this powerful ability, granting him unrestricted underwater mobility. Most professional divers struggle with deep water movement, even with oxygen tanks. Yet Li Mu had stayed submerged for nearly 10 minutes, entirely unaided with no complications. He believed he could have remained underwater even longer if his trap had not been filled to capacity. With master swimming unlocked, he would never face food shortages ever again. His previous diet limited to coconuts and plain river fish was now upgraded drastically thanks to his new ability to gather endless varieties of seafood. On his walk back to camp, he stopped to check the stream trap he had set earlier with equally rewarding results. Water rushed out as he hauled up the net, leaving roughly 3 gene of fresh freshwater shrimp inside. A lavish feast was now well within his reach. By the time he returned to his cave campsite, the afternoon was growing late, and Li Mu set about preparing his lavish seafood feast. Li Mu boasted excellent cooking skills, and handling ingredients came effortlessly to him. As an old saying goes, the finest ingredients demand nothing more than simple cooking methods. Turning spiny lobsters, oysters, abalones, sea crabs, and other seafood into delicious dishes was a trivial task for him. Viewers watching Li Mu prepare the meal in the livestream gazed on with undisguised envy. Saliva pooled in their mouths, and their throats bobbed constantly. Even though most had just finished lunch, they suddenly felt ravenous. He's not here for survival. This is basically a tropical vacation for him. Couldn't agree more. Other contestants are starving while scrambling for basic food, yet Li Mu gets access to such premium seafood. It's downright depressing by comparison. Holy cow, giant crabs, lobsters, abalones. Is this really how Li Mu lives on a deserted island? He eats better than I do on a daily basis. I wish I could jump straight through the screen to taste his cooking. Welcome to Divine Mu's exclusive food livestream segment. The viewers flooded the screen with comments while Li Mu finished preparing his feast. Grilled oysters were tender and juicy, perfect for popping whole into one's mouth. Abalones were steamed inside hollow bamboo tubes to lock in their natural sweetness. He also laid out cooked sea crabs and large lobsters alongside the rest of the spread. After gorging on the rich seafood meat, Li Mu picked up a bamboo bowl. He sipped a bowl of shrimp and laver soup, savoring the fresh broth slowly. Absolutely fantastic, he breathed out in satisfaction. Nothing beat washing down hearty meat with a bowl of warm, flavorsome soup. He continued to dig into his meal with great relish. Watching Li Mu savor every bite, the audience grew utterly tormented by their cravings. I can't stand it anymore. The way he eats makes my stomach growl louder than ever. I'm ordering a plate of crayfish right now to curb this craving. Li Mu single-handedly turned a wilderness survival show into a bite of the deserted island. I just switched over from another contestant stream. Those guys go crazy just catching a tiny fish. They'd be green with envy if they saw Li Mu's setup. Li Mu had well and truly earned his title as the survival show's resident food streamer. The lavish meal left Li Mu feeling thoroughly content. It was his first proper hearty feast since landing on the island 4 days prior. Even stuffed to the brim, the lingering flavors lingered pleasantly on his palate. He had caught far more seafood than needed for one meal that day. With proper preservation methods, the leftover catch would sustain him for 1 or 2 more satisfying feasts. Full and drowsy, Li Mu settled down for a peaceful afternoon nap. He woke feeling refreshed and energized. Time to get back to work, he muttered to himself. His next task was to finish upgrading his shelter. Fueled by a full stomach and solid rest, he was brimming with vigor and sharp mental focus, greatly boosting his work efficiency. Following his planned blueprint, the frame of his shelter gradually took shape. Before long, he finished erecting 4 surrounding bamboo walls, each standing around 2.5 meters tall. The enclosed space spanned nearly 20 square meters. At 1.8 meters tall, Li Mu had ample room to move around inside without feeling cramped or confined. Constructing such a solid standalone shelter in the wild was no small feat. Most survivors struggled just to build a flimsy temporary lean-to with limited resources. By any survival standard, Li Mu's hand-built structure qualified as a luxury island residence. With the perimeter walls complete, his next project was installing a waterproof roof. After a quick assessment, he realized his remaining bamboo supply was insufficient to build the full roof framework. Grabbing his heavy felling axe, he headed out to cut and haul back more bamboo poles. His proficiency with the tool had improved drastically through practice, and he quickly transported enough timber back to camp. These bamboo poles formed the skeletal frame for the roof. He still needed a waterproof outer layer to shield the space from harsh sunlight and rainfall, and palm fronds were the ideal natural material available on the island. He had scouted the surrounding terrain earlier, and knew exactly where to gather high-quality palm foliage. Shortly after, he returned carrying a large bundle of broad palm fronds, shaped like giant handheld fans, perfectly suited for waterproofing and shade. Without delay, Li Mu got straight to laying the roofing material. Thanks to his top-tier crafting mastery, every manual technique he employed reached peak precision. He moved with the skill of a seasoned master carpenter, leveraging structural principles to assemble the shelter framework seamlessly. To securely join separate bamboo poles together, he utilized traditional mortise and tenon joints to lock every beam firmly in place. The sun dipped westward as Li Mu kept steadily working on his construction project. Look how quickly Li Mu moves. That's Divine Mu for you, a man with every life skill maxed out. Building shelter is child's play to him. I originally thought a basic makeshift shelter would take at least 10 days to finish, let alone this massive build he's undertaking. Shockingly, he's nearly finished after just one more day of work. He's got decades of practical experience under his belt with clean, polished movements. Professional master woodworkers could hardly match his craftsmanship. Viewers marveled nonstop at Li Mu's shelter-building process. Even the official commentators in the main broadcast booth sang high praises for his exceptional capabilities. Li Mu's performance is outstanding. He has pulled far ahead of every other competitor by a wide margin, commented Lin Yijing. After witnessing Li Mu's string of impressive feats since the show began, she held him in extremely high regard. Absolutely right. From day one, Li Mu has methodically prioritized critical tasks, sourcing potable water, foraging food, starting controlled fires. Now he's building a fully functional shelter that's almost complete. I have no doubt Li Mu will last until the very end of the challenge, Chen Jian added. Marx, a certified wilderness survival expert, made no attempt to hide his admiration for Li Mu. I have to admit I'm outmatched by his skills. In all my years of field survival work, I never conceived of constructing such an elaborate, comfortable shelter out in the wild. Yet Li Mu turned the concept into a tangible reality. He's about to pull off yet another incredible achievement. Back on the deserted island, Li Mu's shelter neared full completion. He exhaled a deep breath after securing the final palm frond across the sloped triangular roof, admiring his finished handiwork. Every gap across the roof was sealed shut with expert laying techniques, rendering the structure fully watertight. Vine bindings anchored each palm frond firmly to the frame, so strong gusts of wind would not displace the roofing material. His weatherproof shelter was now mostly finished. The audience was stunned all over again by his superior handiwork. The finished shelter measured around 20 square meters with a peak height of over 3 meters, offering Li Mu more than enough personal space. The tightly layered roof eliminated any risk of drafts or water leakage entirely. Compared to the dark, cramped cave he had occupied previously, this custom-built shelter was infinitely superior. Undoubtedly a high-end island home. Li Mu did not pause to rest, moving on to tidy the shelter's interior floor and line the ground with leftover palm fronds. With this final step, his custom shelter was officially finished. Minor improvements like laying proper flooring, installing a door frame, and building a raised bed could wait for later. For now, he had secured a genuine, safe living space and no longer needed to rely on the dim cave nearby. He would finally get a peaceful night's sleep. The production team knew exactly what the audience wanted to see, sending surveillance drones to capture full panoramic footage of the shelter's interior and exterior design. The footage immediately sparked another wave of excitement in the live chat. I have to scream, this is absolutely insane. Only Divine Mu could build such a flawless shelter with such ease. This structure is one-of-a-kind scenery on this barren island. Top-tier competitors like Champion AO and Lord Nua only have shabby, barely habitable makeshift huts right now. Li Mu's shelter is in a completely different league. Pure luxury in these harsh conditions. Who would believe he built this elaborate living space in just 2 days total? It's truly beyond belief. Li Mu's quality of life has far surpassed every other contestant on the island at this point. Divine Mu forever. Viewers buzzed with excitement in the comments section, countless new fans drawn to his unmatched practical abilities. Everyone was thoroughly astounded by the refined, functional shelter he had constructed from scratch. Though the build process felt straightforward for Li Mu, it had consumed most of his daytime hours. With daylight fading fast, he set about preparing his evening meal. Dinner was just as abundant as his midday feast. Thanks to the surplus seafood he had harvested earlier that day. Grilled oysters, cooked sea crabs, spiny lobster, and warm shrimp laver soup made up his evening spread. Illuminated by crackling campfire flames in the growing darkness, Li Mu kicked off another impromptu food livestream. Watching him eat heartily, viewers' stomachs rumbled loudly with mounting hunger pangs. I deeply regret tuning into Li Mu's stream right now. A participant in a survival challenge is eating far better than I ever do at home. I ate 3 full bowls of rice earlier, but watching him eat has me hungry all over again. I came over from other contestant streams. Li Mu operates on an entirely separate level from the rest of the field. He polished off every last scrap of food on his plate in short order. Full and relaxed as night fell, it was time to rest. It had been an incredibly productive day for Li Mu. He had dived into coastal waters to gather ample seafood for satisfying meals, while also completing the construction of his permanent shelter for improved living comfort. Lying atop the soft palm frond floor, the surface felt as comfortable as a quality spring mattress. On his fourth day stranded on the island, Li Mu no longer needed to stress over securing fire, clean water, shelter, or food. The core necessities for basic survival were fully guaranteed. He was fully confident that he could endure the entire duration of the survival challenge. His next goals were to find small sources of entertainment to ward off boredom and steadily upgrade his living standards. For Li Mu, this island journey was no longer mere survival. It was building a sustainable, comfortable life amid the wilderness. Firewood crackled softly as the campfire burned steadily through the quiet night, with Li Mu resting peacefully inside his spacious, well-protected shelter. Life remained harsh and unforgiving for the majority of competitors on the island, even as Li Mu enjoyed relative comfort thanks to his versatile skill set. 365 days of wilderness survival drew a large pool of participants, yet only a tiny fraction possessed genuine practical survival expertise. Most contestants signed up chasing the hefty cash reward, with minimal real-world wilderness experience. They had hoped simply enduring 1 month would net them a million-yuan payout, severely underestimating the brutal realities of island survival. Multiple participants had already voluntarily withdrawn from the competition since launch, finding each day an agonizing struggle. Plagued by hunger, thirst, and cold exposure, many dropped contestants voiced bitter regret over their decision to join the program. Why did I ever sign up for this? This is nothing but unnecessary suffering. If I knew how brutal this would be, no reward in the world could have convinced me to register. I'll stick to watching these shows from my couch from now on. Even a few days on the island left them with harsh, unforgettable lessons. Struggles were not limited to amateur contestants. Several experienced professional survivalists also faced unexpected setbacks and chose to withdraw due to bad luck and unforeseen obstacles. Those still active in the competition were all individuals with solid survival capabilities. Every remaining participant shared the same core objective: hold out longer than their rivals on the deserted island. With even greater trials and hardships waiting ahead for everyone, the sun rose to mark the start of a brand new day. Day 5 on this island, Li Mu murmured to himself. Following his usual routine, he opened his system interface to claim his daily sign and reward, filled with anticipation for what he would receive. A familiar electronic tone echoed inside his mind a moment later. Ding. Host has completed daily sign-in. Total consecutive sign-in days, 5. Ding. Reward acquired. Master Saline production technique. A wide smile tugged at Li Mu's lips upon hearing the notification. The system truly knows exactly what I need. Over his first few days on the island, he had prepared countless seafood meals, with yesterday's grand seafood feast standing out as the most satisfying meal he had eaten so far. Yet every dish lacked a crucial element to unlock its full flavor potential: seasoning. All his previous meals were cooked completely plain without any condiments. Though the natural seafood flavor was decent enough, seasonings would elevate the taste dramatically. After days of eating unseasoned food, his palate craved savory flavor, with salt being the most essential seasoning available in this isolated environment. Beyond enhancing flavor, salt was vital for maintaining human physical health. Sodium found in salt was an indispensable nutrient for bodily function, with medical guidelines recommending roughly 6 grams of daily sodium intake for adults. Li Mu had been unable to meet this requirement since arriving on the island, though his elite special forces physique had prevented immediate physical complications so far. Prolonged sodium deficiency would inevitably trigger health issues down the line, so he had been brainstorming viable salt production methods for some time. Extracting salt directly from seawater required lengthy processes of evaporation, crystallization, and filtration, a labor-intensive project demanding significant time and effort. Working alone with limited hand tools made seawater salt extraction an extremely difficult undertaking. His newly unlocked master saline production technique erased all these obstacles, granting him knowledge of far simpler, more efficient salt refinement methods. After finishing breakfast and taking a short break, Li Mu set out to begin producing salt. Bringing along 2 hollowed coconut containers, he headed deeper inland across the island. Viewers in the live stream grew confused by his sudden departure from camp. What is Divine Mu heading off to do now? He must be searching for some kind of natural resource. We'll never keep up with his thought process. Drones tracked Li Mu's movement, letting viewers observe the island's rugged inland terrain. He walked past dense woodland and freshwater streams into a bleak, desolate stretch covered in overgrown weeds and jagged rock formations. This highlighted just how unforgiving most of the island's landscape truly was. Viewers reflected on how fortunate Li Mu was to have set up camp beside water and woodland, a prime plot of land compared to this barren wasteland. Curiosity spiked as they watched him pace among the rocky outcrops and inspect individual stones closely. Is he collecting rocks for some project? What purpose would rocks serve out here in the middle of nowhere? Divine Mu always has a well-thought-out plan for everything he does. Li Mu eventually reached a narrow, rocky crevice. Carefully examining a pale crystalline stone, he had picked up and nodding in approval at its quality. Why is he fixated on that single stone? One viewer typed in the chat. Many others shared the same confusion, wondering if this stone was the sole reason for his trip inland. Then one viewer sent an excited comment that clarified everything. I've figured it out. That's no ordinary rock. It's pale and translucent like ice crystals, high-grade rock salt ore. I looked it up online to confirm. That is pure rock salt. Rock salt ore. So he's planning to produce his own salt now. It makes total sense. Food always feels incomplete without salt seasoning. The audience immediately understood his objective. The purity of this rock salt deposit is excellent, Li Mu commented quietly as he studied the mineral closely. He intended to refine edible salt from this natural ore. Rock salt contained fewer impurities and higher mineral purity than salt extracted from seawater, alongside a much simpler refinement workflow. Objectively speaking, rock salt is the optimal raw material for producing edible salt. That said, mining rock salt is an extremely tough task. Buried deep underground for tens of millions of years, small amounts of rock salt get pushed to the surface through geological shifts and drastic landform changes over the ages. Drawing on knowledge from his supreme salt-making techniques, Li Mu successfully located deposits of rock salt on this deserted island. Even so, viable rock salt deposits are scarce, and many lumps suffer from poor purity. After an extensive search, he only collected 5 high-grade chunks of rock salt. Still, he was thoroughly satisfied with his haul. If processed properly, the salt refined from these chunks would sustain his dietary salt intake for a very long time. Once he finished gathering the rock salt, Li Mu headed back toward his shelter. With all raw materials ready, the formal salt refinement process could finally begin. I'm hyped to watch Li Mu make salt live right now. God Mu really can do anything. Drill wood for fire, swim underwater for 10 minutes with no gear, build shelters, cook incredible meals. And now he's going to extract pure salt too. I've pulled up a folding stool, grabbed snacks and cold drinks, ready to enjoy this masterclass. Li Mu picked up his stone hammer and struck hard against one piece of rock salt. Bang, bang, bang. Beneath his powerful blows, the rock salt shattered into tiny fragments. This marked the first step of refining salt from rock, or pulverization. Dissolution came next. He placed all the crushed fragments into a large bamboo tube and stirred continuously with a thin bamboo stick. He let the salt content dissolve gradually into the clean freshwater inside. The highly concentrated brine inside the tube carried a faint reddish-brown tint. Black particles floated atop the water surface, while plenty of insoluble debris settled at the bottom, all impurities inherent to the rock salt. Li Mu cut open fresh bamboo stalks, whittled them into thin bamboo strips, and wove the strips into a strainer. He then tore a palm-sized section of fabric from the hem of his clothes and laid the cloth over the strainer frame. He set the cloth-lined strainer atop a second empty bamboo tube and slowly poured the dissolved brine through it, guiding the flow with a narrow bamboo tube to avoid unnecessary splashing. This was the third stage of salt production, filtration. These 3 procedures successfully removed all insoluble solid contaminants from the rock salt. Evaporative crystallization via heating was the next critical phase. While the concentrated brine heated over the fire, Li Mu kept himself busy. He cut a small bamboo tube in half lengthwise to create a hollow cylindrical filter housing. He washed the scrap of cloth thoroughly, stretched it over one end of the bamboo tube, and secured it tightly with his shoelace before flipping the tube so the cloth-covered opening faced downward. He walked to the nearby stream and scooped fine sand into the tube, then added coarser sand on top of the fine grains. He knew sand alone could only filter out physical particulate matter. To eliminate the bitter taste and trace toxic substances within the rock salt, one vital component was still missing. He walked over to the remnants of his campfire and used a long wooden stick to carefully move aside the warm surface ash. From the very bottom layer, he retrieved several fully cooled, thoroughly carbonized charcoal chunks. Thud, thud. Li Mu found a smooth, rounded stone and ground the charcoal pieces to fine, uniform powder atop a flat stone slab. Only once the charcoal turned into an even blend of granules and dust did he carefully scoop it up and spread it evenly over the coarse sand layer inside the bamboo filter tube. On top of the charcoal layer, he added a bed of soft, thoroughly cleaned and crumpled wild grass gathered from the stream bank. With that, his multi-layer composite filter was complete, layered from bottom to top with scrap fabric, fine sand, coarse sand, crushed charcoal, and dried wild grass. Millions of viewers in the live stream stared dumbfounded at his fluid, masterful sequence of movements, executed with the precision of a seasoned craftsman. He already filtered the brine once with bamboo mesh and cloth. What is he building now? Why add charcoal and grass over the sand? What's the science behind this setup? Don't kid yourself. Rock salt contains heavy metals and magnesium ions. This crude handmade tube can't possibly filter everything clean. Eating unprocessed salt like that could lead to serious physical harm. The previous commenter clearly has no idea what they're talking about. God Moon never acts without solid reasoning. Just watch closely. Ignoring the drone camera hovering overhead, Limu focused intently on his homemade filter device. The brine filtered once through the cloth had gotten rid of large sediment chunks, but remained murky yellowish red, laden with numerous soluble impurities. Limu lifted the bamboo tube holding the cloudy yellow brine and tilted its mouth toward the top opening of his custom filter. With a gentle twist of his wrist, the amber brine flowed slowly down the guiding bamboo tube and seeped into the uppermost wild grass layer. Water trickled steadily through gaps in the grass, passing through the charcoal layer that adsorbed impurities powerfully, before creeping through successive barriers of coarse and fine sand. The flow slowed to an extremely sluggish drip. The entire live stream fell silent at this moment, every viewer holding their breath in anticipation. Drip. Nearly a minute passed before a single crystal-clear drop oozed out from the cloth at the bamboo tube's base. The droplet glinted brightly under sunlight before falling neatly into a clean, empty bamboo bowl placed underneath. A second drop followed, then a third. Drip. Drip. The originally turbid, reddish, contaminated brine emerged from this unassuming bamboo tube, as transparent and pure as spring water deep in the mountains. Not a single tiny suspended particle could be spotted, even under the high-definition close-up lens. Holy cow, the water actually cleared up completely. No discoloration left at all. In the main livestream studio, Max, a silver-haired veteran wilderness survival expert, slammed his thigh in shock and shot straight up out of his chair. Incredible, absolutely incredible. Limu possesses not only extraordinary physical fitness, but also an astounding depth of knowledge in physics and chemistry. He understands how charcoal's porous structure functions as natural activated carbon. It adsorbs pigments while effectively removing toxic contaminants and harsh bitter flavors. Wild grass traps large particulate matter, charcoal neutralizes toxins, and grated sand delivers precise final filtration. The purity level of this natural filter rivals basic filtration equipment found inside modern laboratories. Fueled by Max's impassioned, stunned commentary, the livestream chat erupted completely. Bullet screens flooded the whole display, filled with 666. God Mu is unmatched and total technological overmatch. Staring at the crystal-clear brine pooled in the bamboo bowl, Limu nodded in satisfaction. Yet the process was far from finished. A workman must first sharpen his tools if he is to do his work well. Perfect refined salt hinges entirely on precise heat control. He sorted through piles of loose rock to pick out a thin, flat stone slab with a shallow concave indentation right in its center. After scrubbing the slab repeatedly in stream water, he propped it steadily over the blazing campfire, using stacked stones for support. He then poured all of the transparent brine from the bamboo bowl into the slab's hollow depression. Hisses. Flames licked steadily against the stone bottom, and the slab conducted heat rapidly as its temperature climbed. The brine soon came to a vigorous boil, sending plumes of white water vapor curling upward around Limu's face. Holding a flattened bamboo scraper he had carved earlier, Limu kept his eyes fixed firmly on the boiling surface. He gently scraped the slab's bottom at regular intervals. His strokes were soft and even to stop salt deposits from scorching due to uneven heating, which would ruin the salt's flavor profile. Before the eyes of tens of millions watching the broadcast, a small miracle unfolded bit by bit. As water vapor evaporated in large quantities, fine layers of brilliant white powder began to precipitate across the stone slab surface. Free of impurities, devoid of discoloration, as pure white as fresh snow blanketing high mountain peaks in winter. When struck by the afternoon sunlight, the salt crystals shimmered with a translucent glow akin to crushed diamond fragments. Ding! Refinement complete. Host has obtained premium snowflake salt. The long-absent system notification chimed crisply inside Limu's mind. A faint smile tugged at Limu's lips as he scraped the white powder carefully together with his bamboo tool and collected it onto a clean banana leaf. He gathered roughly 30 to 40 grams of all-natural, contaminant-free top-tier refined salt. For a long moment, the entire livestream feed fell into total silence. After more than 10 seconds, pent-up viewer emotion burst forth like a volcanic eruption, with bullet comments blanking out the video frame entirely. Am I seeing things? Tell me this isn't real. This pristine salt came straight from plain rock chunks. The whiteness and purity are unbelievable. This salt is even finer than premium sea salt sold in supermarkets for $20 a bag. This level of skill is absurd. Other international competitors branded as survival specialists cannot even secure safe drinking water right now. Yet Li Mu is manufacturing top-grade refined salt from scratch on an island. Is this even wilderness survival? He's essentially building a technological civilization from the ground up on a deserted island. Li Mu pinched a tiny amount of the snow-white fine salt between his fingers and touched it lightly to his tongue. In an instant, rich, genuine saltiness bloomed vividly across his taste buds. There was no bitter aftertaste from impurities, nor the harsh sharpness of low-grade salt. Traces of natural minerals within the crystals left a faint, pleasant sweetness lingering long after the salty flavor faded. Wonderful. Li Mu let out a genuine sigh of contentment. Now equipped with this premium seasoning, he could not wait another moment to use it. He hurried back into his bamboo shelter and retrieved half a large lobster he had set aside the previous night, alongside a thick, well-marinated piece of grilled fish. Though the seafood had gone completely cold, Li Mu paid it no mind. Pinching the translucent salt grains between his fingers, he sprinkled them evenly over the crimson lobster flesh and golden brown fish fillet with the poise of a professional head chef. He took a hearty bite. Crunch. The premium snowflake salt instantly revitalized the muted flavor of the chilled seafood. Intense natural ocean sweetness burst vividly across his palate, held back no longer. The pure salt cut through faint fishy undertones in the cold seafood and elevated the inherent savory taste of ocean produce to its absolute peak. Li Mu's eyes lit up with delight as he chewed heartily, utterly immersed in the satisfying flavor, not bothering to wipe flecks of white salt from the corners of his mouth. Delicious. Food simply lacks soul without salt. Viewers watching Li Mu eat with such obvious enjoyment could practically smell the savory seafood aroma through their screens. I'm starving out of nowhere watching this late at night. The production team needs to intervene. This is supposed to be a survival challenge, not a gourmet mukbang stream. His cold lobster tastes better to me than a 3-Michelin-star French dinner. I'm ordering seafood barbecue immediately. Li Mu polished off every bite of the meal and let out a loud, satisfying belch after finishing. Once the brief satisfaction faded, he leaned against the outer wall of his bamboo hut and stared at the remaining pile of snowflake salt resting on the banana leaf. His brows slowly furrowed with concern. The salt itself is excellent, yet this island is surrounded by seawater with persistently high atmospheric humidity. If stored loosely wrapped in leaves or placed inside an uncovered bamboo tube, this precious refined salt will absorb moisture, clump up, and even dissolve into brackish liquid within 2 or 3 days, undoing all my hard work. Li Mu stood up and scanned the campsite he had constructed by hand. While he had built a sturdy bamboo hut for shelter from wind and rain, mastered fire starting and hunting techniques, his methods for stockpiling supplies remained extremely primitive. He had no airtight containers, no durable vessels for long-term storage of food and seasonings, nor did he possess sturdy cookware for simmering broths and stews. If I intend to settle here long-term, farm resources steadily, and safely last the full 365 days to claim the 100 million yuan reward, I must solve my shortages of storage and cooking containers. Constant open flame grilling, even with salt for seasoning, would eventually cause chronic internal heat issues and damage his physical well-being. Furthermore, inadequate long-term storage left him highly vulnerable to resource shortages. Extended heavy rainfall would still put him at risk of running out of food supplies. Li Mu's gaze drifted toward the muddy soil beyond the campsite perimeter. An ambitious infrastructure plan quickly took shape within his mind. It seems I need to craft proper ceramic containers for myself. Early the next morning, the first sunlight glinting above the ocean horizon pierced the dense canopy of the primeval jungle. It cast dappled light across Li Mu's robust bamboo shelter. A soft breeze rustled the broad palm fronds forming the hut's roof with a faint whispering sound. On this dangerous island where even sleep demanded constant vigilance, the shelter built entirely by Li Mu's own hands radiated a powerful sense of safety and comfort. Accompanied by crisp birdsong echoing deep within the woodland, Li Mu opened his eyes right on schedule. Unlike other survival contestants who curled up tightly to ward off nighttime cold, he stretched out fully atop a bed lined with dried hay. He stretched his body wide, and his skeletal joints popped sharply in a sound resembling frying beans as his muscles flexed. Thanks to consistent rest over the past few days paired with abundant high-protein seafood meals, his physique honed to elite special forces standards had fully adapted to the island environment, now even stronger than upon his initial arrival. 6 days since I washed ashore. Li Mu silently tallied the days with unwavering calm and clarity. He mentally activated the wilderness sign-in system that had altered his fate forever. System, perform daily sign-in. Ding. Scanning host's current environment. Ding. Sign-in successful. Current consecutive sign-in streak, 6 days. Ding. Reward for day 6 received. Master Level Ceramic Artisan Proficiency. Master Level Ceramic Artisan Proficiency grants complete ancestral clay prospecting methods, proprietary clay formulation recipes, expert hand forming precision, and full mastery of earth kiln firing techniques at Grandmaster tier. The crisp system notification made Li Mu's pupils widen, an irrepressible grin spreading across his face. The system always provided exactly what he needed, as if reading his thoughts directly. He had only just produced pure snowflake salt the previous day and been troubled by the lack of sealed dry containers to preserve it properly. Constantly boiling water in split bamboo tubes and cooking on stone slabs was not only cumbersome and prone to burning materials, but also wasted valuable fats, moisture, and water-soluble nutrients inside ingredients over open high heat. Ceramicware was the perfect solution to all these problems, a landmark advancement marking a massive leap forward in human civilization's development. Mastery of high-level ceramic craft meant he could fast-track the progress of human civilization right here on this remote island. Too eager to stop for breakfast, Li Mu drank a few mouthfuls of fresh cool water from his bamboo flask to soothe his throat, grabbed his sharpened stone axe, and strode downstream along the creek without further delay. Meanwhile, the official production team of Wilderness Survival 365 keenly tracked Li Mu's movements and activated a split-screen broadcast on the main livestream page. The left screen featured Zhang Chong, a formerly popular wilderness survival influencer beloved by countless fans online. At this moment, however, Zhang Chong was trapped in utter despair. 5 days of brutal hardship had left his eyes bloodshot and sunken deep into his face. Torrential rain had fallen the previous night, leaving him soaked to the bone as he shivered atop muddy ground, trying to boil clean water using a cracked, empty coconut shell. I just need the water to boil, then I'll have safe drinking water, Zhang Chong muttered hoarsely, his lips cracked and parched. Yet when the water temperature climbed to roughly 50 degrees Celsius, a sharp crack echoed out. The bottom of the coconut shell split open without warning. Warm, murky water spilled out entirely, dousing the weak flame he had spent 2 painstaking hours igniting. No! Zhang Chong let out a desperate scream akin to a wounded wild animal before collapsing into the muddy ground and breaking down into loud sobs. His fire was gone, and his fresh water supply lost. Desperate to stave off starvation, he forced himself to retrieve plump, white insect larvae from decaying wood, pinching his nose shut and biting into the grubs as their bodily fluids burst inside his mouth. The revolting sight disgusted hundreds of thousands of viewers watching Zhang Chong's dedicated livestream channel. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Wilderness survival is unbelievably harsh. These sympathetic viewers shifted their attention to the right half of the split screen, showing Li Mu's live footage, leaving tens of millions of global viewers utterly stunned. The contrast between the two scenes was staggeringly jarring. Li Mu was clean and tidy, brimming with vitality as if he had just returned from a relaxing vacation. He hummed a light tune casually while digging into muddy soil beside a lush river bend along the stream. Brushing away loose top silt with his bare hands, he pried loose a large chunk of dark red clay from deeper soil layers. Premium red clay. High iron content with excellent plasticity. This is perfect. Li Mu's eyes lit up with excitement as he began excavating large quantities of the red clay with a sharp rock fragment. Instead of immediately transporting the clay back to camp, he combed carefully along the rocky creek cliffs in search of another material. Shortly afterward, he discovered a layer of pale powdery sediment tucked within a hidden rock fissure. Li Mu rubbed a pinch of the pale powder between his fingers and smelled it, his expression lighting up with joy. "I've found it, naturally occurring alkaline volcanic ash deposits." Viewers in the live stream watched Li Mu alternate between digging red clay and gathering pale ash powder, thoroughly confused by his actions. Is God Mu mixing up ingredients to make some kind of island dessert? He's definitely preparing to fire pottery, But what does he need that pale ash for? As a ceramic engineering major, I'll make this clear right now. Without modern industrial equipment, pottery wheels, or formal kilns, hand-forming and firing functional pottery out in the wild is practically impossible. If he manages to fire intact pottery without cracks, I will eat my computer screen live. Inside the main broadcast studio, Max, a top international wilderness survival specialist, shook his head gravely. It cannot be done. The most fatal stage of pottery making is air drying. Formed clay bodies require 5 to 7 full days of gradual, shaded natural drying. Attempting to speed dry the clay over open flames causes drastic mismatches between surface and internal shrinkage rates, guaranteeing the pottery will shatter into fragments during kiln firing. If Lee intends to use finished pottery the very same day, he is bound to face total failure. Listening to the expert's definitive verdict, viewers grew anxious. Could the normally flawless Li Mu finally meet failure in an unfamiliar craft? Li Mu paid no heed to outside doubts, fully immersed in the innate muscle memory and expert knowledge granted by his master ceramic artisan skill set. He hauled the red clay and volcanic ash back to camp and dropped the materials onto a flat stone slab. Time to temper the clay. Li Mu added measured amounts of clean stream water before performing an action that baffled every industry professional watching. He blended the high alkaline volcanic ash and fine quartz sand into the red clay according to precise, esoteric ratios only accessible through his system knowledge. Ordinary clay required lengthy, slow air drying. Yet this custom-blended clay mixture formed new chemical bonds during kneading thanks to the added volcanic ash. This modified material drastically reduced thermal expansion and contraction stress, allowing shaped clay pieces to dehydrate and harden rapidly under high heat without developing cracks. Veins bulged across his powerful arms as he tensed his well-trained musculature. Smack! Thud! He lifted the large clay mass high above his head repeatedly and slammed it forcefully onto the stone slab. This vigorous kneading process forced trapped air bubbles completely out of the clay, turning loose raw soil into an evenly textured, highly malleable material with impressive tensile strength. The clay is fully tempered. Time to shape the vessel. What followed was a scene that defied common sense for tens of millions of viewers, destined to become legendary within the survival competition's history. Li Mu did not waste time constructing a makeshift pottery wheel. He tore off a chunk of clay and rolled it into a smooth, uniform sphere. Supporting the base steadily with his left palm, he pressed his right thumb sharply into the very center of the clay ball. The fingers of both hands moved in blurred, coordinated rotations and upward pulls, simulating the centrifugal force of a spinning pottery wheel using nothing but his own hands. His fingers moved with blinding speed, the whole process looking sped up tenfold to onlookers. In under 3 minutes flat, a symmetrical, moderately sized wide-mouthed clay pot took perfect shape in his palms, rounded body with a gentle bulge, clean even rim, and consistently uniform wall thickness across the entire vessel. Tens of millions of viewers collectively gasped in shock. Wait a minute, this level of fine motor control is not humanly possible. He's basically a human 3D printer. The hand-formed pot spins perfectly balanced, more symmetrical than shapes drawn with a compass. Incredible. Hand-building pottery without a potter's wheel demands the skill of a true grandmaster veteran craftsman. Li Mu's hands never paused in their movements. He fashioned large, deep, cylindrical water storage jars, medium wide-mouthed, flat-bottomed stew pots, delicate-lidded salt cellars, as well as refined ceramic bowls and long-handled pottery spoons with smoothly polished rims that would never cut anyone's lips. By mid-morning, an entire set of flawlessly crafted clay wares, each piece comparable to fine artwork, stood neatly arranged across the open ground of his campsite. Next step, drying. Wiping sweat from his forehead, Li Mu performed an action that horrified every specialist watching the livestream. He lit a ring of blazing charcoal fire directly surrounding the damp clay bodies, intending to rapidly dry the raw pottery with the intense radiant heat of open flames. Max shook his head, utterly baffled by Li Mu's approach. It's all ruined, completely ruined. He's drying greenware over naked, open fire. This directly defies the fundamental principles of ceramic science. Within 30 minutes, these perfect clay forms will shatter into countless fragments. Hundreds of thousands of detractors flooded the comment section like sharks drawn to blood, filling the screen with mocking remarks. If this works, I'll eat my words on camera. His handiwork is undeniably top tier, yet his plan is hopelessly naive. This runs counter to basic ceramic knowledge. No seasoned potter would ever air dry clay this way. 30 minutes passed, Then an hour slipped by. Beneath the charcoal blaze, the clay surfaces quickly faded into a pale off-white as massive volumes of moisture vaporized into curling white plumes of smoke. Not a single crack appeared on any vessel, not even the tiniest hairline fracture. The clay pieces remained perfectly intact amid the intense heat. Max's eyes bulged in shock as he stared rigidly at the monitor, his lips trembling violently. This cannot be happening. Are the laws of physics being rewritten right now? How can uneven, extreme heating fail to crack clay during thermal contraction? A sudden realization struck Max. He slammed his fist against the table and roared toward the screen. It's that pale ash powder. Good heavens. This genius blended highly alkaline volcanic ash into the red clay. It restructured the clay's molecular composition and thermal expansion coefficient. This formula is nothing short of divine craftsmanship. He isn't ignorant of established rules. He is creating his own physical parameters for pottery making. The livestream audience erupted in fervent excitement following the specialist's frantic explanation. That's the sheer power of applied knowledge. Hey, the ceramics major who made that bold bet earlier, are you going with steamed or braised for your punishment? Legend Lee is absolutely phenomenal, wiping the floor with everyone through pure mastery of craft. The sun dipped westward by afternoon, and the clay wares were fully dried. Limu dug a circular pit nearly 1 meter deep into the soft soil beside his camp. Using air convection principles, he stacked stones to build an elevated platform at the pit bottom and carved dedicated air intake channels. A functional makeshift downdraft pit kiln was finished in minutes. He carefully set the dried clay bodies onto the stone rack inside the pit, then packed dry twigs and dense hardwood around and above the pottery. Light the fire. Whoosh! Towering flames erupted instantly, warping the air above the pit kiln with searing high temperatures. Thanks to his carefully calibrated ventilation openings, the internal kiln temperature surged rapidly above 800 to 900 degrees Celsius in just 30 minutes, painting the flames a brilliant vivid orange. A long period of waiting ensued. The fire gradually died down and temperatures slowly cooled only after night fell completely, with stars glimmering brightly over the island sky. Tens of millions of viewers across the country held their breath in collective suspense, their hearts pounding anxiously. Limu picked up a long wooden stick and gently brushed away thick white ash covering the kiln interior. As the ashes fell away, the uppermost ceramic bowl came into view. He hooked it free with the stick and set it upon a flat rock surface. Bending his middle finger, he tapped the rim of the newly fired bowl softly. Ting! A clear, resonant tone echoed across the quiet night air. The high-definition drone feed zoomed in sharply. The bowl's exterior was immaculate, boasting a rich reddish-brown hue forged by intense fire, indistinguishable from antique artwork displayed inside museums. One after another, the water jar, stew pot, salt container, and all remaining pottery pieces were lifted out fully intact. The yield rate stood at a perfect 100%. Every last trace of skepticism lingering in the live stream chat was obliterated by those crisp, ringing tones from the finished pottery. Unbelievable. He crafted a full set of premium pottery in just a single day. This is absolutely unprecedented. From now on, no one should call him a survival contestant. Address him respectfully as the island creator. Switch the feed away from Zhangchong eating bugs on the left screen. It's painful to watch. Limu is operating on an entirely higher plane compared to every other competitor. Beside the campfire, Limu filled his sealed clay jar with purified sea salt he had refined earlier. He then filled his largest red clay stew pot without hesitation. Chopped crab meat was simmered slowly in coconut milk, seasoned with refined sea salt over open flames. Gurgle, bubble, warm seafood broth released an incredibly fragrant aroma that stirred every sense. Limu grasped his handmade ceramic bowl and took a hearty sip of the steaming soup. Warmth washed over his entire body instantly. He now possessed sturdy shelter, purified salt supply, exquisite handcrafted pottery, plus abundant seafood and fresh coconuts to sustain himself. Against the dangerous wilderness of this deserted island, Limu was living quite comfortably. Next up, I need to head into the jungle to find stable food sources. Limu gazed into the shadowy depths of the nighttime woodland, ambition burning bright in his eyes as he planned to expand his territory. A salty, cool sea breeze swept across the campsite the following morning. Seabirds circled above the shoreline, letting out crisp cries. Limu woke inside his robust bamboo hut. Instead of rising immediately, he pressed a hand against his abdomen. Though the coconut seafood stew cooked in his handcrafted pottery with refined salt had been rich and filling the previous night, A strange hollow feeling paired with mild fatigue lingered within his body upon waking. Constant seafood and fish provide great flavor, yet nutritional deficiencies are starting to show their effects. Li Mu sat upright with a furrowed brow. As a former elite Special Forces soldier, he could detect the slightest shift in his physical condition with remarkable precision. This physical warning stemmed from a long-term diet high in pure protein and completely lacking carbohydrates. A well-documented dangerous condition in wilderness survival is known as rabbit starvation, more commonly referred to as protein poisoning. If humans subsist solely on lean fish and seafood with no intake of starches, sugars, or healthy fats, the body depletes its stored vitamins and minerals while metabolizing excessive protein. Symptoms include nausea, diarrhea, extreme exhaustion, and in severe cases, fatal starvation despite a full stomach. I have to locate starchy staple foods right away. Seafood alone cannot sustain my body for more than a month. Li Mu resolved inwardly. At that moment, the familiar mechanical system notification chimed in his mind like a soothing melody. Ding. System scanning host physical condition. Ding. Daily check-in completed successfully. Current consecutive check-in streak, 7 days. Ding. Reward unlocked for the 7th consecutive check-in. Master-level agricultural proficiency. Includes an epic wilderness plant crop identification encyclopedia alongside complete traditional farming cultivation techniques. A flood of overwhelming knowledge surged into Li Mu's consciousness the second the notification sounded, momentarily overwhelming his mind. Detailed foliage shapes, root characteristics, toxic identification methods, growth cycle calculations for countless plant species, visual assessment of soil pH levels, planting strategies adapted to different climate conditions, knowledge accumulated over lifetimes by dozens of top botanists and veteran farmers etched itself permanently into Li Mu's memory, becoming second nature to him in mere seconds. Li Mu snapped his eyes open, sharp light shining intensely in his dark pupils. Perfect timing, exactly what I needed most. A confident smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. He walked over to his clay water vat, scooped fresh spring water with a bamboo tube, and drank deeply. He strapped the standard military-issue utility knife issued by the program to his waist, gripped a sharpened stone axe he had crafted himself, and slung a large woven vine-carrying bag over his shoulder. Today, he would leave the safety of his beach camp and venture deep into the towering, intimidating primeval jungle for the very first time. As the drone camera trailed Li Mu into the dense woodland canopy resembling a towering green beast, Max, the internationally renowned wilderness survival specialist commentating remotely, wore an expression of grave concern. Li is entering the jungle now, yet honestly speaking, this is a risky decision. Max folded his arms tightly and watched the feed intently. Host Lin Yijing looked confused and posed a question. Mr. Max, aren't jungle resources just as abundant as those along the shore? Li Mu has performed flawlessly up to this point. Surely he will manage safely inside the jungle as well. You fail to grasp how deadly a primeval jungle truly is, Yijing. Max shook his head with a solemn look in his eyes. It is a genuine green hell. Shielded from coastal winds, humidity levels exceed 90% within the woods, creating stifling heat akin to being trapped inside a massive steamer. Average people will suffer severe dehydration from heavy perspiration after only 30 minutes of walking through it. Worse still, poisonous brambles, blood-sucking land leeches, and venomous snakes camouflaged as dead branches lurk everywhere. More than 80% of colorful wild fruits and underground tubers found in the jungle contain lethal toxins. Even veteran survival experts with professional botanical guides and years of field experience would never consume unknown jungle plants casually. Max's grim safety briefing sent a wave of anxiety sweeping over tens of millions of viewers watching the stream. Sounds terrifying. Will Li Mu be alright? He's brilliant at handcrafting tools and catching fish, but botany knowledge is a completely different field. Wild plants all look so similar. What if he digs up a toxic root and poisons himself? He's gotten overconfident after his previous successes. Sticking to seafood by the shore would have been far safer. Viewers were not the only ones growing anxious. The live broadcast director deliberately switched to a split-screen layout to highlight the jungle's lethality. The left monitor displayed another well-known international contestant, retired Special Forces soldier Noise Carey, nicknamed Old Noi by media outlets for his renowned jungle foraging experience. Noise was deep within the jungle at that moment, drenched in sweat with countless swollen red welts covering his skin from vicious insect bites. He scratched frantically at his irritated skin while prodding his path cautiously with a wooden stick. Suddenly his face lit up as he spotted several plants with thick, enlarged roots growing beside a rotting tree trunk. Thank goodness, wild yams. Starving for 2 full days, Noise knelt down eagerly and dug the mud-covered tubers out with his bare hands. Overcome by hunger and overconfidence, he neglected to wash the roots, simply slicing off the outer skin with his knife and biting down hard on the raw tuber flesh. Within 10 short seconds, Noise's features contorted in agony. Ugh, cough. Coughed violently. He spat out the plant matter instantly, clutching his throat with both hands in excruciating pain. Burning, stinging numbness spread rapidly across his mouth and throat, robbing him of his ability to breathe normally. Water. I need water. Noise collapsed onto the ground convulsing, foaming uncontrollably at the mouth as his throat visibly swelled shut. High-pitched emergency alarms blared from the vital sign monitor strapped to his wrist. He ingested a toxic variant of the Araceae family plant loaded with calcium oxalate crystals. Max shouted frantically during commentary. He will suffocate from laryngeal edema without emergency anti-allergy medication administered immediately. Dispatch the rescue helicopter at once. Noise is forced to withdraw from the competition. The chief director shouted frantically into his communication device, covered in cold sweat. This horrifying real-life incident silenced all comments across the livestream. Millions of viewers watched in stunned horror, cold dread crawling down their spines. If a world-class survival authority could nearly lose his life from one careless bite of unknown vegetation, the lethality of the jungle was laid bare for everyone to witness. It's absolutely terrifying. Please don't eat anything unidentified, Li Mu. Could the director send an audio warning via the drone to Li Mu before he meets the same fate? As audiences held their breath in dread, the broadcast cut back to Li Mu on the right screen. He had traveled roughly 500 meters into the outer jungle zone by this point. Stagnant, humid air mixed with the scent of decomposing plant matter washed over him, yet his breathing remained steady and controlled. His elite special forces physique allowed him to maintain stable physical function even amid these harsh environmental conditions. Li Mu abruptly halted his footsteps, his sharp gaze locking onto a shaded, damp, bushy hollow ahead. Several low-growing plants with oversized heart-shaped leaves and faint reddish-purple pigmentation near their root systems grew there. Visually, they bore an almost identical appearance to the toxic plant that had nearly killed Noise moments earlier. Li Mu's eyes brightened, and he strode forward to kneel beside the growth. Viewers watching the livestream felt their hearts skip a beat in terror. Stop right there. Don't touch it. That plant is deadly poison. Noise nearly died from eating it just now. Stay away. He never learned plant identification after all. He's going to get fatally poisoned. Countless fans shouted desperate warnings through their screens, fully convinced Li Mu was walking into mortal danger. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Li Mu did not recklessly taste the raw plant like Noise had. Using his sharp stone axe, he carefully dug a wide pit around the root cluster to avoid severing the main root system. He then gripped the plant roots firmly and pulled upward with force. Rumble! Mud flew outward as 3 large mud-caked tubers, each the size of 2 adult fists, were uprooted completely. Li Mu brushed dirt off the dense, weighty tubers with a satisfied grin spreading across his face. Premium wild taro roots. These are an outstanding natural source of carbohydrates. My protein imbalance issue is fully resolved now. Upon hearing Li Mu speak aloud, commentator Max froze briefly before leaning closer to the screen for a careful visual analysis. Seconds later, Max's stunned shock morphed into unrestrained awe and excitement. My God, Li Mu identified it correctly. Noise consumed toxic giant elephant ear taro, also known as dumb cane, which lacks reddish-purple markings at the leaf bases. What Li Mu holds is genuine, edible wild taro. The 2 plant varieties share a 99% visual similarity. Even seasoned professional botanists struggle to distinguish their subtle vein patterns in dim woodland lighting. Does this man carry a complete global plant gene database inside his mind? Max's impassioned commentary broke the stunned silence sweeping across the livestream audience. The comment section erupted violently immediately afterward. How is his observational skill this incredible? A world-famous survival expert got poisoned from confusing these near-identical plants, yet he spotted the genuine edible taro at a single glance. He must have some form of incredible knowledge boost. His botanical expertise is truly astounding. Who claimed Li Mu would poison himself earlier? Own up to your wrong guesses now. After a moment of total quiet, the livestream chat exploded with non-stop messages. Li Mu remained oblivious to the global audience's shocked reactions as he weighed the plump wild taro roots contentedly and placed them securely into his woven vine bag. These taro roots will resolve my immediate carbohydrate shortage and provide viable seeds for future cultivation as well. A faint smile appeared on Li Mu's face, yet he had no intention of ending his exploration here. He gripped his stone axe and ventured deeper into the jungle. Empowered by his master-level agricultural proficiency and comprehensive plant encyclopedia, the once-feared primeval jungle shed its menacing veil, transforming into a vast natural resource reserve in Li Mu's eyes. Wild leeks growing beside decaying timber 30 meters to the left. A whole patch of wild chili peppers hidden behind this strangler fig tree. Li Mu pinpointed valuable vegetation one after another, gathering them with quick, precise movements much like a shopper stocking up supplies in a supermarket. Following a dry, muddy gully, he unearthed multiple pieces of pungent wild ginger with powerful warming and deodorizing properties for cooking. I've struck genuine fortune with this haul. Li Mu headed back toward camp with his bag stuffed full of vital carbohydrate tubers and natural cooking seasonings. Just as he prepared to venture deeper in search of more rare plant resources, the jungle finally revealed the ferocious danger hidden within its so-called green hell. Buzz, 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 an unsettling high-pitched insect hum echoed through the muggy air. Li Mu froze abruptly as sharp, stinging pains flared across his arms and neck. Glancing downward, he spotted over a dozen jungle mosquitoes triple the size of ordinary mosquitoes with black and white patterned abdomens clinging to his skin and feeding on his blood. Slap! He swatted several mosquitoes away with one hand, leaving a smudge of blood across his palm. Even with his hardened special forces physiology, coin-sized swollen red welts rapidly formed over every bite wound. Intense itching and burning sensations surged straight to his head instantly. To worsen matters, constant physical exertion combined with the jungle's 90% humidity soaked his clothing completely with sweat, clinging tightly to his body. The salty scent of perspiration drew swarms of toxic mosquitoes and tiny blood-feeding midges that descended on him like a dark cloud. I let my guard down carelessly. Li Mu's expression turned sharp and focused, rational judgment overriding his urge to continue foraging deeper into the woodland. He knew full well that without protective gear or insect repellent, pressing deeper into the jungle would spell disaster. Even if he escaped venomous snake bites, swarms of disease-ridden poisonous mosquitoes would drain his blood and infect his body with unknown pathogens. A high fever on this deserted island was a death sentence, even with the support of his system. I cannot linger in the deep jungle a moment longer. I must craft insect repellent or protective clothing to eliminate the mosquito threat entirely. Li Mu made up his mind without the slightest hesitation. He grabbed the net sack brimming with supplies, wielded his stone axe to hack a path forward, and sprinted straight back toward his beach camp in a tactical retreat, moving with the agility of a cheetah. Watching Li Mu's somewhat disheveled retreat on the main livestream feed, the audience did not mock him. Instead, everyone breathed a collective sigh of relief. Phew, my heart was in my throat. I thought Mugad was going to stand his ground against those giant mosquitoes. Those mosquitoes are enormous. Just looking at them gives me the creeps. Such sound judgment. He pulls back the second danger emerges instead of overextending himself. That is the mark of a top-tier survival expert. Max, the specialist on the panel, nodded in sincere approval. Li made the correct call. Jungle mosquitoes are lethally dangerous. His ability to exercise restraint amid such abundant foraging gains is truly admirable. A dozen minutes later, Li Mu finally broke free from the dense, oppressive jungle foliage. Cool sea breezes washed over him at once, chasing away the stifling heat and the relentless pursuit of the toxic mosquitoes. He let out a long breath upon returning to his hand-built bamboo and wood camp. The neatly arranged handmade pottery on the ground filled him with a strong sense of security and comfort. He walked to the nearby stream and rinsed the swollen mosquito bites with cold running water, easing the burning itch slightly. Though his exploration had run into minor trouble, the plentiful spoils in his net sack tugged a smile onto his lips. The livestream viewers grew equally excited. Safe at last. Cook up a meal quickly, Mugad. I've got my instant noodles ready for your cooking segment. Wild taro roots paired with wild ginger, bird's eye chilies, and premium sea salt to braise the giant lobster. Just imagining this seafood feast is making my mouth water nonstop. Light the fire and get cooking right away. Against the eager gaze of tens of millions of viewers, however, Li Mu did the utterly baffling thing that left the entire online community stunned. He set the net sack stuffed with premium ingredients on the ground. Instead of starting a fire, he lifted his heavy sharp stone axe and walked toward a flat, sun-drenched clearing beside his sturdy bamboo shelter. Thud! Gripping the axe firmly, Limu twisted his waist and drove the sharp stone blade deep into the compacted soil. He leveraged the axe backward to heave up clumps of earth tangled with weeds, roots and all. Thud! Thud! His physique, strengthened by the system, granted him staggering stamina and strength. He worked tirelessly like a compact plowing machine, hacking weeds, breaking up clods and turning over the soil across the wilderness plot. The live chat fell silent for 3 full seconds before the screen flooded with question marks. What on earth is Mugad doing? He's got top-grade ingredients waiting to be cooked, yet he's out here digging soil under the blazing sun? Did the mosquito bites mess with his head? Is he digging traps? Or an outdoor latrine? The 2 livestream hosts stared blankly at the screen and turned to survival expert Max, utterly confused. Max abruptly shot to his feet, eyes fixed rigidly on the broadcast, mouth agape, as if witnessing something completely unorthodox. Good heavens, he is leveling the land, crushing dirt clods, and pulling out weed roots. This is no trap. He is clearing the ground for farmland. Max's near-shouted exclamation boomed through the speakers for tens of millions of viewers to hear, like a clap of thunder out of a clear sky. Limu moved with practiced, efficient precision. In under an hour, he had carved out a 15-square-meter-square plot of loose, aerated earth fitted with 2 standard drainage furrows amid the overgrown wilderness. He set down his axe and wiped sweat from his forehead, then walked over to his haul and picked up the wild taro tubers. Rather than chopping all of them up for stew, he used a military knife to neatly slice off the sprouting crowns dotted with eyes. The thick main tubers were reserved as food, while the bud-bearing sections, carriers of new life, were cupped gently in his palms. He returned to the freshly tilled field and buried the taro cuttings into the soft, damp topsoil at precise spacing and depth. He split open the wild bird's eye chilies he had gathered, sprinkled their golden seeds evenly along a separate furrow, and covered them lightly with soil. Wild leek seedlings were planted neatly around the perimeter of the farm plot. Using large newly fired clay water jars, he hauled clean stream water back and forth time and again. Folding a broad tree leaf into a simple pouring funnel, he watered the newly cultivated land with meticulous patience, breathing vitality into this patch of wilderness. The live stream erupted into total frenzy. Every viewer from China felt a surge of primal kinship welling up from their heritage. Is this really a survival competition show? While other contestants scrapple fiercely against wild monkeys just for a handful of bitter wild fruit, Mugad has built a real-life QQ farm on a deserted island. He has a windproof bamboo hut, unlimited seafood stock, refined sea salt, a full set of handcrafted pottery, and now a private vegetable patch to boot. It all makes sense now. The innate farming instinct embedded deep within every Chinese person has fully awakened. Give us an empty stretch of land, and we will cultivate crops no matter if we land on an alien planet or a remote desert island. Others compete just to survive a month for the cash prize, but Mugad is drafting a long-term life plan spanning the next decade right here on this island. Soft sea breezes swept across the isle. Limu stood with hands planted on his hips before his brand-new farmland. He breathed out in satisfaction as he gazed over the neat, moist soil brimming with future potential. This farm would break his reliance on opportunistic hunting and gathering for sustenance, elevating his food supply to a self-sufficient agricultural system. His ability to withstand external risks had jumped to an entirely new level. A farm alone is not enough, though. Wild boars and hares roaming the jungle will not hesitate to raid my crops. Limu's gaze hardened as he studied his new field. Refusing to grow complacent, he headed toward the nearby bamboo grove. To safeguard this lone beacon of civilization on the uninhabited island, he needed to build an impenetrable physical barrier for protection.